All right, looks like we're live. Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome
Hey.
back to Horsetooth Cinema Live. So today, I am very excited to be doing the inverse of what we were doing a couple weeks ago here on the channel, where we had a great time talking about the best movies of the year. Today, we're going to be talking about the opposite, the worst movies, the movies that gave us brain aneurysms the most this year. And I could
Oh,
only get through this with two things. One, a little bit of whiskey just to go with the theme of bad movies, and also with my good friend. I also need my good friend Leon. So how's it going, man?
hi. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for letting me join you. Jesus, wrong way around, but still, it feels like I've been drinking whiskey at this point. No, thank you so much for having me on. I had a blast last time. I always love doing streams with you, and I. I think I suggested the prospect of when we were doing the best movies, having like five of the worst, and then it kind of just seemed to spiral into its own live stream because
Yeah,
even
I feel like
though
that if we had done
oh,
that, that probably would have been like a 4 hour stream. And
oh, it would have been
I
so
mean, more
long.
importantly, I think like a lot of people, if anybody was watching after the fact or if they joined late or something, they might they might have started like during the worst segment and be like, wait,
Oh,
why are they shitting on movies? This is the best of the year stream. So no, I figured it'd be a good idea to save it for
no,
this, but I definitely wanted to have you on for it as well because nobody rants like Leon, and
oh,
I'm a
nobody
big fan.
like. I think like in the past few days, I saw Baby Girl in the cinema, and I was talking about how I had like the worst like theatrical experience with
Oh
being in my
yeah,
own crowd,
like
and
you
I
were big on
remember
the movie though,
Jamarco.
right? Like you enjoyed
Oh,
the
I
movie.
thought the movie was great. I thought it
Yeah.
was
Okay.
great. But Jamarco in the group chat, we've got a little film chat and everything. He was like, "Oh, I sense a Leon rant incoming," and I was like, "Oh, I've got to deliver now. I have to deliver."
Yep.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be such a. It's going to be quite a bit of a whiplash after just like singing the praises of what we must have spoken about, like with honorable mentions over like 30 films last stream, about 30 films that we like head over heels loved, and now we're
Yeah.
talking about the worst of the worst. Oh boy.
And because I guess we don't want to make this like an hour plus or whatever of just like pure movies that we hated. I figured we kind of decided like right before we went on to do a little bit of like a similar to the honorable mention segment. We're going to do a dishonorable mentions segment of
Yes.
movies that were like maybe not the worst thing that we saw this year, but just like frustrated us, or we had quite a bit of I guess issues with them that we might have wanted to bring up.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and then we'll just go straight into our bottom 10, I guess.
Oh,
Um,
that sounds good to me.
yeah. So we don't have any comments yet, but I will. But once we get some, we'll go into those as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
But do you want to kick it off with maybe some dishonorable mentions, and then
Okay,
I can
so
do that for myself as well.
this is going completely off the dome because I'm using my phone to do the stream, so I can't check Letterboxd. So, all right, let's see. So first off, dishonorable mention to the legendary author Alex Garland and his film Civil War. I don't
Yeah.
quite think it's one of the worst films of the year. It's up there. Fun fact: I actually rewatched it yesterday. I forced Brady to finally see it.
Oh,
Um,
really?
Not good. It's a bad film outside of like a few sequences that they're okay. But
What did he think of it? I like.
he did not like it. He gave it a
Okay.
4, like a 2 star.
Okay.
He kind of agreed with me where it's like there are sections in the film that like sequences that on their own are actually quite good. Like the whole Jesse Plemons scene is good, but it doesn't really service the film and make the film any better. It's just a really solid scene that you
Yeah.
could honestly just upload that as a short film to YouTube and it would have exactly the same impact because it's not
Yep.
like the character work is like, oh dude, I really care about these characters or I really care about the narrative of what's going on. It's just a really great like thriller sequence, you know?
Yeah.
And that's the biggest issue with Civil War for me. It's just something that it's confused tonally. It has no idea what it's saying, and then when it is attempting to say stuff, it's really fucking stupid, juvenile, and idiotic. And yeah, no, it's just a film that frustrates me. Most importantly, it's just fucking boring. Like it's a really dull
Yeah.
film for something called Civil War, and I will
Yeah,
say
for
I
kind of
kind of scream laughed this viewing at one scene, and it's entirely because of Josh Lewis's review talking about the scary dystopian future where the Canadian dollar has value, and there's like a
it's
sequence
so
where they're like,
funny when that
oh,
happens, like in the
we have $200. Oh, that'll get you a sandwich here. $200 Canadian. I was
Canadian.
like, fucking hell. Like, oh
Yeah.
my god. But yeah, I don't know if that made your bottom 10 or if it's a dishonorable mention, but
It's not on my bottom 10. Because again, I think there's competent stuff in there. Like a lot
yeah.
of this, like there are some set pieces on their own that I think are decent. That you mentioned the Jesse Plemons one. The the sort of raid on the White House isn't too bad at the end.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think for me it did frustrate me that a movie called Civil War has nothing to say about like the current state of American sort of polarization. But more than that, yeah, the biggest issue with it is it's just really boring. Like it's not smart enough to actually be a movie that will provide an interesting commentary on war or any of that.
Yeah.
But it's also not like a Red Dawn type like exploitation movie that actually
No.
that sort of will turn this sort of current sort of timely thing into like a more like just like a traditional like bozo action movie. It's just kind of stale, I thought.
Yeah, no,
So that's a good
absolutely.
one.
And another thing I want to quickly mention about it, I really kind of hate the soundtrack and the score to the film. I know you mentioned you weren't a fan of like the indie folk-esque like score that
Yeah, it's like a
feels
road
so
movie, like for a lot
yeah,
of it, and that's a fine structure. But like, there's all these sequences of like these war journalists driving through like a hellscape, and then you get like this sort of like Sundance like indie drama music. It's so weird.
oh, it's terrible. And then also the actual licensed music in the film is just painfully obnoxious, and it's like ironic kind of mentality where it's like, oh, we're gonna show horrific footage of like people being murdered and dead bodies while like an upbeat hip hop song plays, or
Yeah.
like a song like a Bruce Springsteen cover of a song from a band called Suicide when someone's dead. It's like it's really really on the nose and not in a smart way. It's a very like condescending set of like needle drops, but it just irked me, bugged me, and yeah, like it's a bad film, but again, it's not quite the worst of the year.
Yeah.
Again,
Yeah.
competent filmmaking, like you said, and the sound design's excellent. Like I think,
Yep.
outside of like maybe Interstellar and IMAX, it's the loudest like IMAX screening I've ever been
Yeah.
to, and
It has that same
it
sort of reverb with the guns that like Heat has a little bit.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it's better than Man.
I agree. I agree. It's a little better than Men.
Yeah.
But yeah, some more dishonorable mentions for you.
Dishonorable. Oh, okay. I hate to say this
No
one
worries if you
because
can't think of it. If you want, I could go through mine and we could. And
oh,
if it's one for you
I've
as
got
well, we could
more.
always.
I've got
Okay,
more.
go ahead.
I'll go quick because I don't want to take up too long. And I hate to say this one because I had an absolute blast interviewing the man behind it. But I gotta say, Kevin Smith's The 4:30 movie really, I did not like that film. I think it's just. I want to be nice to it. I don't want to be super mean to it because again, he was such a delight to interview and everything. But no, I just think it's kind of a film that's stuck in his very old kind of patterns of hey, let's do member berry stuff, and hey, remember when I did Clerks, and remember the '80s, and it's like overblown, like it's just like non-stop nostalgia. It's got really like bland filmmaking outside of some genuinely fun kind of like grindhouse-esque like fake movie trailers in the middle of the film, which I think are quite good. But yeah, no, it's just a really, really, really dull movie, and for something that I think the credits like appear about at the 75-minute mark, it feels like it's like 2 hours long. It is paced like
Yeah.
atrociously. Yeah, no, it's kind of
I've
like
not
the
taken that
bad
much of the
version of
Kevin Smith pill, but
oh
I definitely I will go down. Some of the films that I have seen in terms of like the rabbit hole of his filmography are. So
yeah.
I'll check that out at
Clerks
some
is
point. But
fun. Clerks is fun.
Clerks is pretty good. I enjoy Clerks. It's not like
Yeah.
I don't think it's like a great like one of the best movies of the '90s, like some
No.
people think it is, but I do enjoy it. Yep.
Yeah, no, it's he's a competent filmmaker, and I did a bit of like a binge of his stuff last year where I caught tons of his films, like early stuff, later stuff, and I think he's he's a passionate filmmaker, but I just don't think the passion's there anymore. Or he was a passionate filmmaker. I just think nowadays he kind of. I feel like he just needs to do something that isn't like quirky comedy or isn't just like vulgar comedy.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I hope
Jason,
he
by the way,
does something
says
interesting.
Kevin Smith made a movie. So it is
Yeah.
kind of funny to think about that. And I mean, like, if you're not that familiar with like him as a director, he's made a ton of movies, but
Oh, so
he
many.
does have obviously a much like a different persona with like like the podcast world and all this other
Yeah, like
stuff.
the
But
comic book stuff and everything.
yeah,
Yeah.
comic books for sure.
Yeah,
But
he's
yeah, he's made tons of movies, and I think from what I mean, I like I said, I like Clerks. He's made, but a lot of his other movies are like terrible, like
Oh yeah,
really, really
because you've
bad.
seen like Tusk and like Yoga Hosers and
Yoga
stuff.
Hosers,
You've seen.
I maintain is like one of the worst movies I think I've ever seen. Yeah,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
no, that's very fair, and it's not even like something that's like funny to talk about. Really, it's just a painful experience. Which he's been very like self-referential about like going forward, being like, oh yeah, I made Yoga Hose piece of shit, blah blah blah. But like, it's just
so yeah,
it's a rough watch.
yeah.
Other mentions of like bad joints from last year. Um, fuck, I'm trying to think of some two-star joint. I mean, I'm gonna throw Alien Romulus in there again. Not
Okay.
quite the worst film of the year, and there's like Fede Alvarez is sometimes a competent filmmaker. Like the production design on that film is like pretty fantastic. I will give it that, and it starts semi compelling for like the opening 15 minutes or so, offering what feels like a new and fresh like voice in the Alien universe, almost like those original four films, which all have a very different director, a very different feel, a very different tone and everything. But as soon as the general plot kicks into gear, and I don't know, we're just it's just like a recreation of events from previous films. It's Alien, it's Aliens, it's every single
Hmm.
Alien film that came before without really having an identity of its own, and it becomes like I was talking before about how some films have like the like member berries stuff, like a 430 movie, but this just takes it to such a ludicrous degree where it's like copying, replicating shots from previous films. It's got a horrible, and I mean horrible, like recreation, de-aged AI like CG version of a deceased actor who comes back for no logical reason. It's not even the same character this actor played in the film they were in the Alien franchise before. So
Grave
it's
robbing.
just there to dangle keys in front of you, digital necromancy. It's fucking evil. Like not even
Yeah,
in a funny way. Like
I
just
hate that's one of like the least my
horrible.
least favorite things
Yeah,
in movies. Yeah.
and it just keeps showing up, and it's like a part of me wants to give the film like a 1 star because it's just so, that alone is like one of the worst things I've seen. But again, the stuff behind it, like the stuff around it, like again the set dressing is fine, some of the performances are fine. There's a David Josson, I think his name is. He was recently in Rye Lane. I think you saw Rye Lane,
Oh
didn't
yeah,
you?
yeah, it's a good
Yeah, he
movie.
was
Yeah.
like the lead in that, the
Oh,
lead in Rye
the
Lane.
guy. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, cool.
he plays like an android character in Alien Romulus, and he's solid. Like he's giving a good performance, but it's just the screenplay he's working with, the direction. It's just terrible. It's just awful, and he's given nothing to really do. Kaylee Spaney
Yep.
from Civil War, Priscilla, she's in it as well. But again, she's just a Ripley clone. There's nothing original in that film. It's just like a highlights reel of things that have came before, and I think it just does a disservice to a franchise that, love or hate every film in that franchise. I don't love like Alien Free or Resurrection that much, but
Yeah.
at least they're going for something. At least there's originality behind each one of those original installments, and even to a degree the AVP movies. And of course,
Hmm.
Prometheus and Covenant are doing crazy shit as well because Ridley's a psycho in a complimentary way. But yeah, no, I Romulus is just a very frustrating film that, again, one of the worst of the year, by far one of the most disappointing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
no,
kind of
there's
more what I'm
probably,
going for with this segment. Yeah.
yeah, probably there's probably others that I might come back to after you've said a few. But do you want to
Yeah,
talk about
sure.
some of yours?
Sure, yeah. I'll go through mine a little faster just so we can get started with the list soon. But
Hmm.
so
Absolutely.
there
Sorry
were
if I
a
was going
few.
for too long.
Oh, you're totally good. No, it was like especially like kind of quality over quantity in that respect. Like with going into depth on ones that were
Yeah.
kind of frustrating and disappointing. So one that was a little bit disappointing for me because I'd heard good things about it was "Woman of the Hour" by Anna Kendrick.
Yes, I heard that.
Um,
So.
and I was actually liking the movie for most of it. It's this kind of interesting, like stranger than fiction story of a person who turns out to be this like serial killer rapist person who goes on like one of those like 70s like game dating show kind of things.
Okay.
And so they use that as a tension device of like, okay, you know, like what this guy is, and he's on the show being really charming and all that. And it just kind of, I don't know, I've kind of felt like it really leaned into kind of, I don't know, like true crime, like sensationalism in a way that just kind of rubbed me the wrong way, especially when it felt like a movie that was trying to like sort of critique that a little bit. So I don't know, just kind of didn't stick the landing for me.
Yeah.
Late Night with the Devil, probably
Yes.
another one for you,
Yeah.
was a good concept, I think, but just didn't really add a whole lot of original things to the table. I think you and I would agree. Definitely watch Ghost Watch if you're into something
Yeah,
like that.
100%. Yeah.
Um,
Like Ghostwatch is just it is like the bread and butter for that formula that Late Night tries to recapture. And I was thinking as soon as you went on and you spoke about Woman of the Hour, I was like, that's like kind of a live show thing, and I was like, shit, I should have mentioned Late Night with the Devil. So
I
I'm
was like
glad
that. There
you.
would be a good double
Yeah.
feature of like frustrating movies with a good concept kind of thing.
Yeah, because it's
For
not
me
like
anyway.
again, that's just another one where it's not outright terrible or anything, and there's decent elements about it, but then there's just really, really just like bland, lazy filmmaking. It doesn't fully commit to the format. There's obviously the AI stuff, which is a
Yeah.
conversation in and of itself, and again, it just feels so redundant and like kind of been there, done that. Which when you see and hear the premise like that, you're like, oh, maybe this will bring some like interesting lifeblood into the horror genre, and it fails to really do that, which is so disappointing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another one that was again like mostly a good concept, but just kind of really disappointed by the third act of it was The Watchers, directed
Oh,
by M. Night's other daughter, not the one that was in Trap, but the other one,
the other, yeah,
Ishana Night's Shyamalan. Yeah. No, it's a cool like almost like reminded me a little bit of A Quiet Place, reminding me a little bit of I don't know. It's just a good like sort of creature feature concept where for a lot of the movie you don't see what's going on, but
yeah,
then yeah, it's just the way that they take it into the third act is just so I don't know antithetical to what the movie is going for and so kind of like anticlimactic. I think I don't know, really kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Even though there were aspects of the movie I definitely enjoyed.
okay.
Maxine, really
No,
disappointing after I really liked Pearl and I definitely, had a good time with X. It's just kind of this like really like tacky sort of like giallo ripoff with not really
yeah,
much for it to stand on its own. I don't know. It just kind of felt like a tacked on like it just felt like it existed because they wanted to make this a trilogy now after it
yeah,
sort of
no,
yeah, it didn't totally work for me. Um, I didn't hate this movie, but Pool Man got a
oh
lot more hate
no,
in kind of the indie circle. It was one of like the worst reviewed movies at TIFF a couple years ago. I didn't hate it. I think there's always a good potential for like the dumb guy LA noir sort of in the mode of like Big Lebowski. But this one just really didn't have the sauce. You and I watched it together, I think, and we
yes,
kept talking about like how poorly directed it was in terms
oh,
of
it's
like
so atrociously directed.
yeah. There's so
I
many
had
like
fun, but
yeah, there's
yeah,
so many like times where it's like I was like, does Chris not Chris Hemsworth, but Chris Pine, does he know what the rule of thirds is like in terms of just like the way he frames characters and all that? Um, yeah, Civil War you mentioned. Two more. I've got a Night Swim,
yeah,
which honestly, like I after watching, I kind of wondered like if a different director had done this material, maybe if it could have been like a 3-star movie, just sort of like a passable schlock movie.
yeah,
But just yeah, the way it was executed was very like kind of stereotypical Blumhouse horror, and definitely a stereotypical like Blumhouse family drama about like a
yeah,
kind of a family that's struggling. The dad has this job he's away from and everything. It's just nothing you haven't seen before in that way.
yeah,
So and then lastly, I was really intrigued to check out because there's so many what they call nepo babies making movies now, and I'm always intrigued to check those out and kind of see like where they stand in relation to their parent. But one of the worst ones. Caitlin Cronenberg is Humane. Have you checked that out?
No, it's on my to watch list, but I'm not hearing excellent things about it. I know you weren't a
It's
fan.
Yeah, super cool premise, like super cool idea of this like futuristic society that's like ravaged by climate change and environmental issues, and they like to decrease population, they institute mandatory suicide for. Or it's not like basically like you can enlist, like you can like volunteer for this as like a
Okay.
service to mankind basically, and and these like rich parents kind of enlist. But the thing is, the movie like becomes this, it's kind of structured like a thriller, but really like it's much more similar to something like, I don't know, Triangle of Sadness or Glass Onion, like these kind of like rich people, like shallow satires we've been getting a lot of lately.
The
So
Menu.
yeah, The Menu is another one for sure.
Mm.
There's actually a scene that's like a dinner scene that I was like, this is like just like The Menu.
Oh.
But yeah, I don't know. Those were some just ones that were disappointing for me. Not necessarily again like the worst movies I saw this year, but definitely like disappointing.
Yeah, there's probably a lot more that I could have done. I should have wrote down some more disappointing ones, but I
Oh
mean,
no, I didn't tell you to
yeah,
do it. So.
it was one of those years where like the good films were fucking great, and then the bad or mediocre or disappointing films were just like, oh god, there were a lot, but just there are quite a few standouts. But most of the like passable or bad films weren't atrocious. But I'm sure when
Sure.
we get into our lists of the 10 worst, we'll have a lot to say because these
Yep,
are these are the worst of the
for sure.
worst.
But before we do, we'll go ahead and get into some comments because I know we're a little
Of
behind on that.
course.
You got Josh saying, "Hey fellas, hey man, thanks
Hey
for joining us
Josh.
here." Um, Jason says, "I hated Civil War. It was number 6 on my 10 worst list." Yeah, I saw that. Didn't get what everyone was fighting for. Yeah, that's the thing is like maybe not every war movie you need to understand that. I mean, so some movies you just kind of know from the history, like Come and See or something. But I think especially if you're doing like a futuristic dystopia, like you definitely need to like
Yeah.
to kind of hammer that home a little bit more.
Brady said the exact same thing yesterday as well about the whole like you don't really get a feel or an understanding of what is going on in the film. It's just hey, every state is fighting, fending for itself, blah blah blah. But like, there's never like I don't want like an exposition dump necessarily, but it kind of just throws you in, and then it's like, oh dude, here's the concept, but it's so shallow when you actually look at it,
Yeah.
and there's no real world building. It's just like Alex Garland just threw darts on a board and he's like, okay, this state is crazy, this state is cool, and there's no real like reasoning behind any of it other than hey, it's a premise for a thriller that has things to say.
Yeah. Texas and California teaming up together.
So fucking stupid. Like honestly, like I don't know what's happening to Garland right now, man, and it disappoints me because he can make like great things, but he's fallen.
Yeah.
Oh,
Civil War so weird. Yeah. Yeah. Worst of the year has to be Argyle for me. What a stinker. Made me question life points.
was that
Yeah.
last
So
year?
it was. It was like
Oh,
I don't remember if it was I think it was like late January last year,
it
maybe early
might have been,
February.
yeah.
Because I remember when I went to see The Beekeeper, they were having like the premiere for Argyle in London at the it was the Odeon in Leicester Square, where they had
Oh,
a lot of the big blockbusters in the UK premiere there. And yeah, they were like blocking that area off for the red carpet to roll out for the movie that everyone wants to go see.
Argyle.
Yes. We will be talking about Argyle at some point. I'll hint that. Madam Web better be mentioned. I don't know if it's
No,
going to be mentioned for Leon. It will be for me. Don't worry. But
no. Right, I'm just saying right now, Madam Web is not as bad as everybody says. I will. Right, when you talk about it, I'll express my thoughts on it. Now, I like Madam Web, and it's not irony. It kind of.
it definitely is partly irony. We'll get to it, but
A little.
is your wife feeling better? Yes. Thank you for asking, Jason. Yeah, for anybody that doesn't remember on like the stream a couple weeks ago, my wife came home from work early, just wasn't feeling super well, but she's feeling much better now. Funny story about that though. That night, She asked if I could run down to the gas station to get her some juice, and I did. And on the way back, I tripped and hit my arm on a curb and broke my arm. um, I
Yep.
had to go to like the urgent care that night. And I was in a cast for about 10 days, but I thought it was going to be longer in the cast. But then they told me recently at my orthopedic appointment that like apparently it's the kind of break where it's better to, instead of immobilize it, just kind of like let the arm go back to normal. It's pretty small, and just kind of the area it's in, that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm not in a cast currently, but still hurts. So yeah, good story.
Yeah, I hope you feel better from that. I'm so sorry about that. I remember you just mentioning it to the chat like an hour after we got off stream. I was like, oh, because it's like right towards the end of the year and everything, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah, it was a funny way to end 2024, which was a great year for me. Weird way to end it, but liked Romulus, but the recreation isn't good. I still haven't seen it, so I don't really know what he's referencing in terms of like is it sort of just trying to be like other Alien movies and recreating sets or something, or
both? Well, it's using locations, iconography, and characters from the previous Alien movies. I'll say that because obviously I don't want to like spoil the movie, but there is like kind of like a Ghostbusters Afterlife-esque like digital necromancy like kind of situation where you are seeing a dead actor on screen.
okay.
And that is just and they are a character in the film, a speaking character in the film. It's yeah, it's bad. And then the rest of the film is just like, hey, remember this shot from Alien 3 or remember this shot from Alien? And it's just kind of one of those films. Very Ghostbusters Afterlife, actually. I should have mentioned that when I was talking about like comparison points. Okay. Yeah.
All right, yeah, I'll have to check it. I mean, again, I'm still behind on some of the Alien movies, but I'll do that at some point.
Yeah.
Woman of the Hour was disappointing. It seemed very inaccurate to real life. I was watching it like, I can't believe a person actually said that. Interesting premise. From what I understand, it is fairly accurate to the story, and I do know that Anna Kendrick also tried to do all of the sort of 70s dialogue really well. Like it kind of like the period detail. I thought was pretty good. But yeah, it was. I don't know. I wasn't totally sure what it was trying to do in the end, really, in terms of like the points it's trying to make about like true crime obsession and things like that, and just kind of thought it was a little bit convoluted, but interesting. I mean, I definitely watch what she does next, because as far as like how it was directed, it was solid.
Yeah.
Mac says, howdy chaps, how's it going, Mac? Good to see you.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us. Romulus was a big disappointment for me. I really liked the first half, but then it just fell out into member berries territory.
Yeah.
Is that okay? Were you liking it for the first half as well?
I'd say for like the first 20, 25 minutes, I'm like, oh, this is solid. But then they're on a planet, and then they go up into space onto a ship, and as soon as they hit the ship and they're on the ship, it just kind of goes downhill from there for me. Like it's just one that gets worse as it goes along, and I kind of was just getting frustrated and tired. I was like, I kind of want to leave, but then I don't know. I paid for the ticket. It looked good in IMAX, so I'll give it that. Cool. But yeah,
there you go. Alrighty, we'll go ahead and get into the list. Before we do, I have one little disclaimer of something that made my like bottom 10 things I watched that you can log on Letterboxd in 2024, but I'm not going to count it as a movie because it really isn't one, and that is Joe Rogan's stand-up special, Burn the Boats. When I was in like high school and stuff, I used to like his podcast and stuff. Don't really anymore. But even then I didn't. I had seen a couple of his stand-up specials on Netflix, and his stand-up comedy is just not for me. I just don't find it that funny. But this was like a new level of like, wow, this is bad. But I'm not counting that because it's not really a movie. So that's my little disclaimer. Do you have anything similar?
Oh God, sorry. I'm just looking at this list and it's hurting. No, everything in here technically qualifies as a film, but I'd also consider them to be like methods of torture for some as well. So disclaimer for any who haven't seen some of these films: they're fucking horrible, and don't seek them out yourself because it might hurt you.
Alrighty.
Yes.
I'll let you go first then, because what's your number 10?
Okay. So my number 10, and this was like this could have been many of like this kind of genre of film, many big blockbusters that completely fail, and just kind of offer nothing to the landscape of film or to the genre that they're in. And my number 10 is Venom: The Last Dance, the
Oh,
final maybe movie in the Venom universe, and the second to last movie in the Sony Marvel universe, which I'm sure and we know you're going to mention a film in that universe that came out this year later. Yeah, no, Venom: The Last Dance is one of the most incomprehensible motion pictures I've seen in quite some time. First time director Kelly Marcel, I believe, who previously wrote the first two Venom films, Saving
right.
Mr. Banks and
Oh, that movie's
uh,
terrible.
the
Oh,
first 50 Shades of Grey film. Interesting
interesting.
filmography. Yeah, no, I don't know if she's entirely to blame for the film because it just kind of feels like a billion ideas mushed into like an hour 40, hour 50 runtime. Really, really atrocious action and visual effects. A narrative that feels like it's missing pieces where like it just feels like things happen in the film and like it feels like 10 minutes of like backstory exposition, all of that is just missing from the film. I think Mark Commode pointed that out too. It just feels like a sequence of scenes that were just thrown into a washing machine and then just like spit out into like whatever order possible. It
Mm,
tries to have like a laughably like emotional like third act with one of the funniest needle drops of the year. I won't spoil it for those who haven't seen it, but there's a montage sequence looking back over the course of the three films, primarily a footage from this film, set to oh my god, it's such a bad needle drop, but genuinely maybe one of the only highlights in an ironic way. But yeah, no, Tom Hardy, he's very clearly into the Venom like gimmick, but he's not good in the film. There's so many actors. Juno Temple's in it. I forget the actor's name, but he played like the crocodile guy, the lizard, sorry, in the
oh,
Amazing
yeah,
Spider-Man.
yeah, yeah.
He's in it,
Gotcha.
and yeah, there's like returning cast members and stuff. It's like it's a really good cast for a really shitty film.
Mm,
Just kind of a slog to sit through. I found it really, really unengaging, and like I remember bits and pieces of it, which it really is probably what the film itself is, because again, it just feels like random sequences stitched together to technically be considered a film. Really,
mm,
really bad, just kind of lifeless film. Not even in a funny way, and like again, even if I may disagree with one of your picks from the Sony Marvel universe or anything, at least that has elements that can be considered like amusing bad, but this is just bad. This is just like not even
okay.
fun, like something I won't even remember after we're done with this list. Really,
Yeah.
really awful film. Uh,
I need to check out the second one, the one that Andy Serkis did, because I didn't like the first one, and I heard some people who didn't like the first one ended up liking that one,
I
which
like the
you
second. I think the second's fun. It's not
okay.
good, but it's fun.
And then maybe I'll check this one out. But yeah, it was kind of frustrating that they didn't let him didn't let Andy Serkis have another crack at the third one. That was
Yeah,
interesting to me.
I feel like because like Tom Hardy has like writing credits on both this and the second film, so like it kind of would have just made sense to let Hardy go full like crackhead mode within the director's chair. Like I wouldn't have minded to see that. Like it might have been terrible. It probably would have just been equally as bad. But considering he's the only person in this entire like trilogy of films who seems to give a shit, and he's so into the character, it's kind of unbelievable. I feel like that would have probably been the more logical choice than getting the lady who wrote the films, because she,
Sure.
no disrespect to her, because maybe she'll crank out like an amazing film in the future, but it doesn't even feel like she's directing. It feels like it's a mandated Sony project that has her name as the like directed by credit, but I couldn't sense any like sort of like a unique artistic like vision from her, and that's like the most disappointing kind of thing,
It's
for
unfortunate.
especially for a
Yeah.
like debut as well, because I don't
Yeah.
know, maybe she has something great in her, but whatever that is, it's definitely not it.
That's what the list is all about. So
Oh yeah.
that's good first choice.
Oh, thank you.
My number 10 is a film that I think I forget if you like ironically like this or if you actually genuinely like this. So we'll have something to discuss here. But that is The Strangers Chapter One, which so for anybody that is unfamiliar, maybe if you're not the biggest horror fan, there's this movie called The Strangers from, was it like 2008 or
Something
something,
like that.
or
2007, 8. Yeah.
yeah, which is it's like the most standard like home invasion slasher you will ever see. Like
Oh god,
it's
yeah.
like it's like these this couple gets home, there's a knock at the door, it's this weird person like and then eventually like they're basically like there's these masked people led by a guy named Baghead who wears a bag on his head, is trying to get in the house and kill them. It's again most basic slasher you've ever seen. It has a sequel called Strangers Prey at Night that came out a few years later that I actually quite like.
Yes, I
It has this
love.
all these like really weird like hyper violent like giallo touches. There's an amazing like pool scene in it.
Yes.
But and then we have this directed by Rennie Harlan,
The goat.
who the goat from masterpieces like Cliffhanger. I genuinely love that movie.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. That's
Such
a
a
good one.
fun, yeah. And then he's also done like he did Die Hard 2. He did The Dream Master, Nightmare on Elm Street 4, I believe, and a few other like pretty well received or like kind of moderate like cult movies.
The Adventures
But
of
then but
Ford
now
Fairlane.
what is it? Sorry.
The Adventures of Ford Fairlane with Andrew Dice Clay.
Right.
We can't forget that. uh,
But now he's in kind of his direct to video era. And so he's
yes.
doing what's essentially like, I don't want to call it a shot for shot remake because it's not technically, but it is like it is pretty much beat for beat like the original Strangers film,
Yeah.
done in like, the reason it's my number 10 and not like up higher because it's very incompetently made, but it is funny at times. Like there's
Yes.
some dialogue, like some kind of really bizarre, like a lot of the small town characters are just like the most cartoonish like rednecks you've ever seen written in a film, and like have no character, has anything to them whatsoever.
No.
The actors, like the way that they deliver these like ridiculous lines with like a degree of confidence, actually does provide some entertainment value at times, but it is a pretty boring film. And the weirdest thing about it is that it's a planned, is it a trilogy,
Yes, a
or is
trilogy
it
that was
yeah, it's
shot all at once over the course of like I think like 40 or 50 days or something.
right.
Yeah, they just filmed a trilogy, and the plan was to release two of them this year, or like one of them this year and one of them like this month. But after the kind of disappointing box office returns, I know we're getting the second one sometime this year, but I don't know if the third is also coming out. But they're all done. Like they're
Yeah, I
done. They're
mean,
just on the shelf waiting to be
yeah, like
released.
I kind of said in my review, I was like, this is terrible. Like I kind of hated watching this. I will watch the other two.
Oh
I don't know
god,
if I'll
yeah.
go in theaters, but I will. I'm very curious, like, because especially since this first one was just like pretty much beat for beat like the original movie. Like, what are they going to do? It's again, it's like such a basic setup. Like the idea to stretch this to a trilogy is so baffling.
Oh,
So
it's bizarre. I'm
yeah,
sold though. Like yeah, no, I definitely have like an ironic enjoyment of this film. I think there are some genuinely kind of decent sequences in it. There's like a sequence where I forget the lead actor's name, but she's like crawling underground, like under the floorboards, trying to like escape from the house and everything. It's just a scene that is very like intentionally quiet. You're like, oh shit, what if there's like a rat that appears into frame, and there's like a scene involving like a like a nail and everything, and I'm like, I've seen stuff like this before, but it's decently like intense and everything. Like it's not anything that's gonna like blow you away, but that's fine. And of course our legendary Baghead, he has kind of this like aggressive feel to him that reminded me of like the Friday the 13th remake. I'm not a huge fan of that film, but I don't mind like the direction they took, and I'm like, if that's gonna be incorporated in the future like chapters of this fucking trilogy or whatever, maybe that could lead to something a bit different, because Baghead isn't really a character. Like Baghead's very quiet. He's not super aggressive. He has moments in the Prey at Night, but like he's kind of just he's a bit of a nobody intentionally. So if we want to do something with that in the future films, there, why not? But my favorite thing by far about the film, and you were talking about the weird like character quirks and just like weird oddities in the film. My absolute favorite thing is how it is mostly like shot for shot, like beat for beat narratively the first film, but there are just these really bizarre character traits, such as the fact that the so it's a boyfriend and girlfriend, and they're hanging out in like a cabin in the woods, all of that stuff. The girlfriend, she's a vegan or a vegetarian, so the boyfriend has to leave at one point so he can get her a vegan burger because there's like there's only meat in the house or something, which is just such a fucking stupid character.
She has like some interaction with the like rural townsfolk about that as well, right? Like in
Yes,
the
she
restaurant.
does.
Yeah.
And
They
then
keep bringing this like vegan detail on.
it's
Like
so bizarre. It's so bizarre. It's like, oh, we can't be exactly like the original. We have to have something new. But my absolute favorite thing is the boyfriend has asthma, and that's his character
right?
trait. He has
Yeah.
asthma, and at one point he loses in his inhaler and has to craft an inhaler out of like a can or a bottle or something that he sees on the ground. And they just keep pointing out. He's like, oh shit, where's my inhaler? Oh, I left it in the car. I have to go drive back. And it's just like these really, really bizarre character quirks that only exist to like accelerate the plot. And it's like, oh no,
Yes.
well, I guess I
Yes.
forgot my inhaler or something. And it's so funny. Like I found it to be absolutely hilarious. Not a good film by any means, although I will say I had more fun on my first viewing than the second. It is very boring. I see why it's making people's lists, but trust in Rennie Harlan. The Strangest Chapter 2 will be a movie. It will be a movie.
It will be a movie coming soon to a theater, maybe near you. We'll see.
Maybe a theater,
Uh,
maybe digital.
maybe just
Probably
straight to digital.
digital.
Probably digital. But anyway, yeah,
Oh,
that's my number
God.
10. What's your number 9?
Okay, number 9. Let's go. This one. Okay, so here's one of my more controversial ones that I don't know. I don't know if people are going to agree with this one or not. You haven't seen this, I don't believe. But my number 9 is The Apprentice, the Sebastian Stan
Okay,
led
yeah, haven't seen it.
film. Kind of a biopic of sorts about everybody's favorite person, Donald Trump. Yeah, no, it is one. It's just a film that I found really smug and annoying, and like let me just say, I fucking despise and hate Donald Trump. But and I think I say this in my Letterboxd review. But if there's anything you can give that man, he's not boring. He
Yes,
is fucking insane, and that's why people are so captivated by him, and it's why he's uh, won the hearts of so many
he's like, yeah,
Americans.
well, I mean, it's much more complicated than this, but he's like America's irony poisoning. Like it's
Yes,
like
no,
it's
absolutely.
he's just so interesting at the start, and it's gone on to a whole new thing. But anyway,
Yeah, and
yeah.
then the issue with The Apprentice is it takes this like really really interesting character person who like I'm not again interesting I'll just say, and it just kind of boils it down into one of the most generic like Scorsese rip-offs I've seen in quite some time. And I don't know, from the fact that it just feels like it's doing the Wolf on Wall Street thing, but it's got these like handheld things, but it's like, oh dude, it's like we're there with these characters as they're doing stuff. And like I don't think Sebastian Stan's very good. The film is really bizarre in how it frames Trump, because it almost wants you to feel bad for him at multiple points, which I'm like,
I don't
I
mind that
don't
as a
know.
concept of sort of like a like Frankenstein sort of like, he was, I think that's what they're trying to do, right? Is like
Yeah,
he
yeah,
was
no,
made
that's
into this
absolutely.
by this Jeremy Strong character sort of thing.
Yeah,
Again, I haven't seen the film, so I
it's
can't really comment.
that's kind of, yeah, that's absolutely what it's going for. But it's just it's something where I'm like, I'm so confused, because like it makes you, it's like, oh dude, feel bad for him, he's crying, and a minute later he's like sexually assaulting his wife. Like it, like genuinely, and that's not an exaggeration. Like there is a scene where it's like, oh dude, feel so bad for him because he's really sad, and then that happens. It's just like there's such a tonal kind of whiplash with the film that I kind of had no idea what the intent was behind it. Kind of a bit like Civil War, which we were talking about earlier,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
where it just
Yep.
feels so messy and so, I don't want to say incoherent, but just like misguided, and deeply boring and frustrating watch. Jeremy Strong is horrendous in the film. Folks might know him from classics such as Serenity and Succession.
I
He's
actually
great
love
in
him as
this.
well. Like he's
Oh, he's so good in Serenity.
well,
um,
yes, but also like in a more conventional like he was recently in a James Gray's film Armageddon Time, that's what it is. And he plays like this uncle character that's he's actually really really good in it. But and he's good in some other things as well. But
no, he's a
yeah,
good actor.
I
Yeah,
yeah.
he's a good actor. He's really bad in this. He has a really awful fucking accent. I don't know if it's accurate to the character he's playing, but holy shit, it's just like really insufferable, like overacting. And the film's like, oh, isn't it so funny? But he's just like a piece of shit. And I'm like, ugh, I couldn't stand it. The film's shot in 16 mil, which I should theoretically be giving it a little bit of a pass for because 16 mil looks great, but it's just got this really like bland flat cinematography as well, which just kind of didn't add much to anything. And the film has like different eras that it's capturing. So like for the 70s, it's like, oh dude, we're 70s, we're like Mean Street, so we're gonna shoot it in 16 mil. And then when it hits the 80s, it has like, or like the 90s, it has this really awful like fake, like, you know, a digital kind of like VHS style
Oh,
filter thrown over
it's
it.
doing the Irishman thing where
It's
like
doing
it
the
changes
Irishman.
as it goes on.
Yeah, and it's
That's it. That's
really,
interesting.
really bad. It's really bad. Like the digital, like VHS-esque like filter that's slapped across the screen. I was like, holy shit, this isn't a YouTube video. This is like a
Hmm,
feature film. Like, oh my god.
interesting.
Yeah, no, just a film that I found so smug, aimless, like kind of poorly acted. Like I mean, Sebastian Stan was in A Different Man this year, and he was great in it. Like absolutely
Hmm.
fantastic performance. And I don't think he's the problem with the film, but I also don't think that it's a smart idea to have the narrative kind of like structure of your film to resemble like the Star Wars prequels, where it's like, oh, dude, Anakin was such a cool guy, but he
Right.
turned into
Yeah.
a villain. It feels like it's doing that in like a 2 hour runtime, and I know that's a
Sure.
strange comparison, but when you watch it, it's literally like the Jeremy Strong character is like the Palpatine guy or whatever, like Emperor Palpatine or whatever. He's corrupting him and turning him into, like you were saying, Frankenstein's monster, Darth Vader, and it's like when you watch it from that perspective, it's almost impossible to see it in any other way. It's such a
Yeah.
bizarre way to treat Donald Trump. Like I
If you
don't
want to
know.
watch a movie that is that narrative structure, basically that came out this year, watch The Brutalist because that is basically what
I'm
it's doing in
excited.
terms of the character dynamic. I wish I had gotten a chance to see it before we did our best of the year video because it might have had a chance of making the list.
Yeah.
But yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, but yeah, no, really flat, really boring, uninspired, and just questionable film, I will say.
Sure.
I
Okay.
did not like it very much. What's your
All
number
right then.
nine?
My number nine is a film that is a remake of a great classic French thriller, and that is The Wages of Fear. So, if you're not familiar, the original Wages of Fear was directed by Henri Georges Clouzot, and it also has been remade before into Sorcerer, directed by William Friedkin. Both movies are the same premise. Sorcerer is quite a bit shorter, does kind of focuses a little bit more on the tense thriller stuff. I would say Wages of Fear is a better like character movie, but they're both very good in their own different ways. This is when I saw the poster, I burst out laughing because it's just like that stupid like sort of generic like direct to video action poster, but for like a classic French movie that's like very prestigious and is like on the Criterion channel and all that. So that was very funny to see, and so I kind of had to seek it out right away. I think it was on Netflix or something.
Yeah, I think it's a
um,
Netflix film.
and in addition to kind of how poorly made it is in terms of a lot of the action and like just how like the digital like really terrible like sheen to it and everything, I think one thing that I found really weird about it was that it basically like, okay, so in The Wages of Fear and especially in Sorcerer, I wouldn't say there's really any like good characters. Like they're all in this like strange sort of location in South America, because they've all and they're working for this like U.S. oil company because they've all like fleed very like precarious circumstances in their own home countries, whether that's crime or whether it's poverty or whatever.
Yeah.
That's why they're there, and again, like a lot of them are just like they're just not good people, and those movies don't really feel a need to moralize them. This one, a lot some of the key characters are like working for basically like this movie's equivalent of like UNICEF, some sort of like virtuous like helping the children like NGO in some, I think, like unspecified country or whatever. And I was just like, what is the point of that? Like, why do you feel a need to like, if you're remaking Wages of Fear, which is like this really, like sort of bleak like hellscape sort of movie, like why do you feel a need to sort of create characters that we can sort of attach ourselves to and see our, all this. I don't know. It was a really lousy attempt at trying to do that as well. So don't have too much more to say about it, honestly. It was just one of the biggest like bizarre like why does this exist sort of movies that I saw this year.
No, I need to see the original Wages of Fear. I picked up the BFI 4K that came out like a couple of months ago recently. So I'm very excited to finally sit down and watch it at some point. But all of the vibes I'm getting from the Netflix like remake just seem like, oh no, it doesn't even seem like it's gonna be fun bad. It just seems kind of like
It's
a
really
sort of
not. I mean, it's pretty underseen as well. I want to say it has like yeah, it only has about 5,000 logs on Letterbox,
ooh,
so yeah, not very like popular, I guess, but it is on Netflix, and it's
ooh.
something that you can potentially look at and try
Oh,
to not fall asleep during.
that would be that sounds delightful. Okay, so my number eight. Oh, right. So
Yeah, number 8. Let's go.
initially, this wasn't even in my like contention for top 10, but then as I was looking, I was like, oh boy, that was dreadful. So I want to give a bit of context before I get onto this. So it was like National Cinema Day, and all of the cinema tickets at my local like cinema were £4, including IMAX tickets. So I made a day of it. I saw 4 films that day. I saw Inside Out 2, which I had a good time with. I saw the remake of The Crow, which is actually pretty good. I'll defend that film, and not in an ironic way. I kind of like the remake of The Crow. I think it's pretty good. FK Twigs is really good in it. I saw Alien Romulus, which we've spoken about, and then I ended my night with like a 9 p.m. showing of a then brand new horror film, which has sadly made my number 8 list, and that is the film Afraid or Afraid, whatever,
Oh
but it's like
yeah.
Afraid, and yes, so this is a Blumhouse Sony like movie about, oh dude, AI is so terrifying, but we're gonna use generative AI in the film. John Cho plays like a tech bro who works for a company, and he's really smart. And this other rival company kind of wants to bring him in, and they want him to use this like AI bot in his house, kind of like an Alexa type of device or something, but it's like the most groundbreaking piece of AI technology ever. And all you do, you just plug it into your house and stuff, and it can hear you in all of the rooms and all of that stuff. You put the little speakers in, and yeah, no, it. The AI slowly like learns as the film's going along and becomes buddy with everybody in the house, and it wants to be their best friend. It's kind of like a little bit like Megan from a few years ago, but
I
if
was gonna say because it's
Megan
Blumhouse
didn't.
as well, so that's kind of
Yes,
I forget how you felt about it. I
I
liked
think
Megan. I
Megan's
thought it was a
fine.
little
It's
overhyped, but
yeah,
I
it's
liked what they were doing with it.
I think it's something that can be established on in a sequel for sure. Like they
Yes.
could. There's something there, but the first film, it's just like it's almost like a test run. But with a
Wait, and so
Freyeye,
this one is it's not like a robot. It's like just generative AI or just
no,
like
so
a Alexa kind type thing.
it's just like a little device, like an Alexa device in your house,
Yeah.
basically. But he's got a family, John Cho. He's got a wife. He's got a couple of kids and everything. And the AI slowly tries to like manipulate everybody in the house to like dislike each other, and it'll hear that like I don't know, like this girl, like his daughter's like I think she's like 17 or 16, 17 or something, and she's got a bit of a fling with a guy, and it's like it's comically bad how underwritten the characters are. Because her first scene, from what I remember, is her going up to a guy at school, and she's like, "Hey, do you want to get together later?" And he's like, "No." And she's like, "Why? I sent you nudes yesterday." And he was like, Yeah, they sucked, and then he doesn't want to talk to her because he didn't like her nudes or something. So, like, that's the kind of character, characters we've got in this
So
film. And then when the AI hears about this, it's like, oh, I'm gonna get him done for CP and stuff. And I'm like, oh my god, it's like it's so
actually,
dumb.
this is reminding me of something else. Have you seen? There's a film that came out of like 1 or 2 years ago called The Artifice Girl. Have you seen that?
No, I've never even heard of this.
Oh, okay, okay. So it was like a smaller sort of sci-fi genre film that got a little bit of attention at festivals last year. I didn't end up
Okay.
checking it out, but basically the idea for it is that they kind of create like a computer program to go after like child predators, and so
Okay.
so it's like a noble idea you would think, but then but because it's like general AI, like this thing has consciousness, this thing is basically like a little girl in the way that they program it. It's kind of part of the movie is like, how would that program feel about that? Like, is this an ethical thing you're doing to that
Okay.
machine? So, but it sounds like a Freyide doesn't really have like those kind of ideas
Oh
that it engages
no.
with or anything.
No,
Okay.
that's just like one narrative beat of the entire film. You've got like the brother of its son character. He feels like really left out by everything, so he's like best friends with the AI, and it's like, hey, you want to watch a movie? And there's this really funny scene where like he's supposed to be asleep, and the AI's like, hey, let's watch a movie, and puts the Emoji Movie on because of course Sony have to shill their own products. But
Holy
like
shit.
forcing a kid to watch the Emoji Movie, I was like, holy fuck,
That
this
is
is
amazing.
yeah, and
Okay, I may have to watch this. I mean,
I
you're selling me, dude.
I will say, even though it's number 8 on my list because it's a fucking terrible film, it's probably like I'm looking at this list, it might be like from this point on, it's I say it's the most entertaining of the bunch. Like even like more entertaining than the ones that I previously spoke about, but in a so bad it's good way. But it's still fucking atrocious. I forget. I can never pronounce the guy's name. David Dalmatian, the Late Night with the Devil guy, lead actor in
Oh
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
He
Yeah, he's great.
plays. I find it really ironic because he plays the head of the company that's trying to get John Cho to like test out this AI stuff. And I'm like, after the whole Late Night with the Devil stuff, I'm like, he can't catch a break in 2024 with like dog shit films using AI because like there is generative AI in the opening of this film, and it's like, oh dude, what if we had kids but their faces were scary and AI? And there's like killers that go around with like a really scary like emoji face on a mask that's so fucking embarrassing. And like sometimes it doesn't even make logical sense because it'll just be like this emoji that you can see as an audience goer, but I don't even think is like visible in the film itself. It's just like emojis, technology. Atrocious film, like really really bad film, but very fucking funny. There are sequences that I do think of from time to time. Again, the Emoji Movie one. There's one where I won't give away what happens, but the AI programs and hijacks an electric car like a Tesla. Like, oh my god. Yeah, no, there's fun to be had with it, but make no mistake, it's terrible. Yeah,
Okay.
no,
I might have
it,
to add this to the Samurai January list. This sounds
I
intriguing. I might have
if
to do
dude,
it.
I will visit. I will revisit it with you, even though it's one of the worst of the year. It's fun. It's fun. I'd watch it with you.
Okay.
But yeah,
All
no,
right.
that's my
That's a cool one.
number 8.
Cool. Well, we'll do some comments real quick before you get back to the
Yes,
list. But that was a good one.
absolutely.
Got Brady saying Leonard, as in Leonard Part Six.
Hello. Oh no, me. I'm Leonard. He
Oh,
calls me
okay, okay.
Leonard.
All right.
Hello.
Brady says, I made a purchase for the wheel. What does he mean by this?
Oh no. Right. Okay. I'll be super quick because I don't want to derail. So you know how like you know how me and you we watch films and stuff and we'll take turns with our picks and everything.
Oh, yeah.
That's the general thing with most people I watch films with. Me and Jacob, me and you and everything. But the issue
Me
with
and
me
my
and
wife as
Brady,
well. Yeah.
there's no structure to it. Sometimes he'll pick like 4 films in a row, I'll pick 4 films in a row. There's no structure. So the other day we came to like the genius conclusion that we should get one of those random wheel generators and
Huh.
just be like, we'll put like 2 or 3 recommendations in, and it will just pick the film for us. Do you want to hear the 3 films it's picked for us so far? The four
Yeah,
films
yeah.
it's picked for
Go
us so
ahead.
far. Okay, so if I'm remembering correctly, these might not all be in correct order, but Civil War, Morbius, fucking, oh god, what was the other one? It was another, oh, How High, and I'm like, oh my god, this wheel fucking hates us, because we pick films that we really like, and we'd have a joke pick, it'd always pick the terrible one, but it
Oh
didn't
wait, so
pick
you
Sam
had like good
Raimi's.
films on the list too, on the
Yeah,
wheel?
no, we were picking good films. Like this was a list with like Heat and like I don't know,
Oh
Kiyoshi
wow.
Kurosawa's Cure, and it was like I was like, yeah, let's watch Cure. It picks How High, but last night we watched Sam Raimi's The Gift because I'm reviewing it for Blueprint. I had a great time with that. So that was
Okay.
the first
Okay.
good pick, and we actually spinned the wheel for our next pick, and it landed on something I'm really excited for, and that's Michael Mann's Black Hat. So I'm
Oh,
very
nice.
excited
Yeah,
to
yeah,
check
yeah.
that out. But he made a purchase for the wheel. I'm curious if he actually mentions what the purchase is.
Okay.
But yeah,
That's
that's
cool.
the
That's a cool
wheel.
idea. Jason says, I'm a fan of Trump, so I avoided The Apprentice because I don't trust Hollywood to tell the story.
That's
I
fair. No,
understand that. I
that's
mean, I
absolutely fair.
again, I can't agree with that, but I understand where you're coming from there.
Yeah, no, I'm the same as you, Jackson. I don't like Trump, but like it is a film, but like I don't want to say it's a disservice to him because I'm not like, oh yeah, give him a good film or anything, but like it's so boring. Like
It's
you
also
were
like I feel like political biopics work much better like years and years after the fact. Like when you
yeah,
have more
not like in
historical
the
context to
midst of
go
it
off of.
still, yeah.
Like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Um yeah, a Frey-eyed is so funny.
It
It sounds really
is.
funny.
It's
I'm
so
excited kind of. Um I like Megan a lot on rewatch. Yeah, I haven't
the Megan's
rewatched it yet, but it took a little while to get going, and like there's issues I had with it, but it's a good concept, and I'm definitely gonna watch the sequel whenever that comes
Yeah,
out.
no,
I think it's supposed to be this year.
absolutely. I think so.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's supposed to be this year. Yeah.
mhm. Best thing about a Frey-eyed is when it's the line, "Don't worry, mom and dad won't catch us when he's watching the Emoji Movie."
Yes.
I mean, that's something you don't want to get caught watching that. So. I actually like The Apprentice a lot. Sorry, guys. I mean,
No,
what
no, that's
again?
fair.
Didn't
That's fair.
Yeah,
It's something
yeah,
that I feel like I'm in the minority on not really liking. I found it really tedious, and it. I haven't seen any of the directors of the films. I forget the director's name, but he did that film
Ali
Border from.
Abbasi or something.
Yes, that's the guy. He did Border from a few years ago, which I've heard is great, and Holy Spider, which I've heard again fantastic things about. So I hope like I can dive into some of his earlier work and they'll hit a bit better for me, hit a bit more because this one just didn't.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll do my number 8 then.
Yes.
Um, Number 8 is a film that I think was quite anticipated for me to talk about, and is probably the most popular film to mention on worst of the year lists this time around,
No.
and
Oh.
that is Madam Web. Um, I think I'll be kind of brief here because I don't have that much to say about it because it was so much of like a this just washed over me a kind of experience. I mean, there are funny moments in it and everything. It was kind of pitched as like, no, you have to go see this. It's like so bad it's good, and it's really not. There's really not enough funny stuff in it for me. A couple line deliveries. I liked the sort of like direct like plagiarism of the Spider-Man, like with great power comes real great responsibility line. I thought that was
Yes.
funny.
Ugh.
Obviously the backstory about like the mom going into the Amazon, dying of spider bite or whatever. But no, most of it is just like this really like just poorly made, boring, very obviously like studio hacked up action movie with horrible set pieces. Really just like characters that aren't characters. I don't even really understand why they wanted to make this. Casting is kind of bizarre too. I like Dakota Johnson, but Madam Web is like this old woman in the comics, and like I don't know. It just made no sense for to me as a movie to exist, and the result was baffling, but not necessarily in the way that I wanted it. Like again, it's kind of weird to me that people are talking about it as like a so bad it's good because I really didn't see it that way. I know, yeah. If you want to touch on it a little bit,
I
but
I love Madam Web. So it's not a good film, and I will say like there's elements of irony to it. Like I think there's a lot of like really atrocious ADR with that one actor. I forget his name, but he plays the villain in the film. Almost every single one of his lines is like dubbed over. It's atrocious. The editing is like all over the place. It's like really. it's a hack job, like you said, like a studio hack job. But I will defend S.J. Clarkson because I do think that there's like moments in that film and pieces and set pieces. I disagree about the set pieces because I do think that some of them are like actually kind of well thought out and constructed, but they're just hacked apart in the edit. There's a sequence like
Do you think the Pepsi one, the big finale
no,
where they fight in front of a Pepsi
no,
sign is
not the Pepsi one. I think like a little bit after she first gets her powers, and there's like this really she goes back to work and everything after like all of the crazy shits happen, and there's this really like genuinely pretty impressive one of her just seeing all of the chaos of like I think it's like a burning building beside her, and there's like an ambulance is like driving around. It's right before that guy gets like hit with the truck or whatever. Like it's really goofy, but like there's a really like decent shot going on, and I'm like, no, this I don't think she's like a hack necessarily, the director. I think the studio and the edit is what really like fucks the film up, which is kind of a little bit it's like echoing what I said with Venom, where I'm like, I don't feel like her voice was really the director of Venom or in Madam Web too much. Like you don't really
I
get
agree
that
with that, and
director's
I'll kind
voice,
of give it a
but
little bit of a pass for that,
yeah,
because
because I do think
I think that's fairly obvious is the thing. It's just
oh,
like like this,
absolutely. Like
but
I think
yeah.
elements of it. Oh, sorry, I'm so sorry. Go for it. Sorry.
No. I was just gonna say, like, even if she did have her full voice, I think there's been cases where, Marvel will go to like these small directors to make like a huge $200 million movie, and even if they have their full voice, I don't think it really works a lot of the
No,
time. And again, it's
that's
just like this is just a property they want to capitalize on.
oh,
Like, what
100%.
else is there? Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
no, I agree. I agree with that. Like, it is just like it's just a property to be consumed and everything. But again, I'd like to see more from S.J. Clarkson in the future. And again, I kind of like the whole diner sequence in concept. The execution isn't great, but I do think there's enough. There's enough compelling and interesting, and of course, so bad it's good things in the film for me to kind of I'm like, yeah, whatever. I've seen it twice, and it's something I would watch again. I will say I'm gonna make a statement which may or may not ring true, but I'm gonna place my bet now, and people can come back to this live stream. In 10 to 15 to 20 years, it will be seen as like kind of a Catwoman level, like so bad it's good
okay,
film, or like even maybe. I not in the sense that it's even remotely as good, but a so bad it's good classic staple like Showgirls. I disagree with the notion that Showgirls is so bad it's good. I think it's a genuinely good film, but I think this is a film that will have that audience in the future. Not saying it's great, but
you're
just
right,
being like
because there
kind of
won't be
something
the
that will
audience.
have legacy screenings and stuff in 20 years. People will want to
Because
see
there's a
sold out
sizable
screens.
like population that actually speaks about Showgirls as like, no, this was a good movie the whole time, and like people just didn't realize like what a genius Paul Verhoeven was.
Oh
But
yeah,
there is of course also the ironic crowd, the people that are like, actually, this is really entertaining as a so bad it's good.
that's
So
the crowd that
I
will
get
latch
where you're
onto
coming
Madam
from.
Web. Yes,
Okay,
I do think it will have that kind of that vibe in the future. But yeah, no,
yeah,
Madam Web, fun. Not great, but fun. But
okay, all right,
I see why people don't like it.
yeah. That was my number 8. This is your number 7.
Oh, okay. In a just world, this would be number one, and this is the one everybody's been waiting for. Oh boy, I'm so fucking excited for this one. Some people will say this doesn't count. I do not give a fuck. It came out in January here. I fucking hate
Oh.
this film, and if we have any rant in this entire stream, it's about to go on now. Number 7, but in any other world, it'd be number 1. But we've had some fucking atrocious films this year. We're going to talk about Alexander Payne's film, The Holdovers. Maybe my most controversial take of all time, but I do not give a shit. The Holdovers is one of the most insufferable, smug pieces of shit that I've seen in my entire life. Directed by a guy who raped somebody, but no one seems to remember this, and they just give him a pass because he made Sideways, and oh, dude, he made a
Roman
really cool
Polanski
film.
makes good movies too, buddy. There's art
Yeah,
versus the artist. There's all this.
Woody Allen too. Rainy Day in New York is excellent. But you know, the holdovers, holy shit. From the moment I put it on, I was like, I'd seen two films from Payne before. I'd seen Downsizing, which is one of the first films I ever walked out of a movie theater before. This is walked out of midway through, and this is before I even knew about the allegations, mind you. This was just a fucking insufferable film, genuinely atrocious film. I don't know anyone who really likes Downsizing anyway. But then a few years later, I watched Election, which everyone loves, and I was like, damn, this shit sucks too. And I was like, oh god. And then I hear, oh, he's making another film, and then I remember, oh yeah, he raped Rose McGowan. But I'm like, okay, I'll go in, give it a fair shot. Opens with these old fucking MPAA ratings and like old Universal Focus Features rating and like logos, and it's got like fake film grain over it, and the audio mix is like in stereo. It's like, dude, remember the 70s where audio and visuals look like shit? But Alexander Payne can't even commit to the fact of just shooting on film when, dude, like so many films are shot on film for like next to nothing. Dude, M. Night doesn't even like make films that cost that much, and he's still able to shoot on fucking film. But Alexander Payne isn't able to. Alexander Payne, author who's won fucking like Oscars countless times. But anyway, yeah, really, really insufferable film. Everyone's like, oh, it's so cozy. No, it's horrible. It's a film about how Alexander Payne loves being a child predator, and how Paul Giamatti's character
like,
wants to
this
like
is
spend time with a child, and it's so funny. I'm reaching.
this
There.
is your worst take. Like, I think this is your absolute worst take out there. Is
I'm
like to
kidding
read the
about the
holdovers
child
as
predator
that.
thing, but no, it's a film I find really insufferable. Like, if I'm being serious and not doing the whole goofy thing, it's a film I just found absolutely insufferable from frame one to the final frame. I did not find it like cozy or warm at all. I found the humor really, really stale. Like, oh, dude, Paul Giamatti smells like fish and he has a weird eye. Wow, so fucking funny. I think Deadpool and Wolverine made me laugh more. It's a film that the only
You didn't
saving
find the
grace of
penis
it.
cancer joke funny?
No, I didn't
Why?
laugh once. I think the whole film is just it's just like straight face the entire time. It's like I was watching Schindler's List. But the only saving grace from the film, like in terms of like Schindler's List isn't funny, I'd be like really sad during that.
No, 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 no,
Let me
no. I know
rephrase.
what you're. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I was watching Come and See. But anyway, the only saving grace of that film, similar to like the other years of The Whale, is there's a supporting character who's actually really good. Devine Joy Randolph.
Yeah,
She plays
she's
like
wonderful.
the caretaker, like cook lady. She's really giving it in the film. She's really going for it, and she's like the only saving grace. I will say the fucking holdovers kid actor, whatever the fuck his name is. I Listen, I'm talking about the character, not the person. I wanted to fucking punch him in the face. Insufferable human being. One of the most obnoxious characters I've ever seen in a motion picture. Just really annoying, has really just
I like
annoying
him.
vibes. I'm glad you like him. And I just could
I mean,
not
he is
stand
obnoxious,
the
but
dynamic.
in like a charming way. I think
That's
that's
fair.
a lot of
That's
the
fair.
film
It's
is.
like they got discount like Dollar General fucking Timothy Chalamet in the film, and it's like, oh my god, I fucking hated it. Genuinely, really bad film, and it's really funny, but it tries to have like a really emotional arc in the third act. No one else stands with me on this take. The closest comparison I can see is YMS gave it a 5 out of 10. That's how bad this is. YMS was just like, it's
Yeah,
fine. I think
that's
it's
how bad of it. That's how bad of a take it is that you agree with YMS on something.
no, dude. I don't even agree with YMS because YMS thinks it's okay. I think it's fucking terrible. I hate it. I never want to think about this film again. And part of the reason why I even wanted to do the worst movies of all of the year list is purely to just vent and shit on this film because I'm in like an echo chamber. I'm not even in an echo chamber. I'm in an echo chamber
No,
with
you're in
just
your own echo
myself,
chamber.
and
Yes. Yeah.
nobody else agrees with me, and nobody else sees the devious and sinister like subtext behind the holdovers, and how it's Alexander Payne laughing at the fact he got away with doing horrendous things with a child, and he was like, why don't I make a film about how cute it would be if an older man was hanging around with a child for a really, really long amount of time without any adult supervision. It's sinister, it's devious, it's horrendous, and and it's number 7 on the list. Part of this is me taking the piss, but also part of me just hates the fucking film. Anyway, what did you think
look.
of the
I mean, you can hate the film, man, but I think for you to genuinely read it as like a confession
No,
to
I'm
like
kidding.
those
I'm
kind
kidding.
of horrific crimes, I think is pretty. Yeah, no, if
That's
that's as
fine.
long as that's ironic, then okay.
That's ironic. I've got to feed into the irony somehow because I just I just think it's a shit film. But no,
Okay.
he's not confessing that he's a child predator. But you could read into it that way if you really wanted. Anyway, what do you
Okay.
think of the
Okay.
holdovers?
All right. All right. Well, I am going to go ahead and move on to the comments because I am very excited to get this rant over with.
Wait, what do you think about the holdovers? Express your thoughts.
I love the holdovers, but I'm not real. I'm not gonna. This is the worst of the year list. I'm not gonna go into it too much. It's fantastic. It's probably like
Say
I think it was like
something bad
number
about the
7,
holdover.
number 6 or 7. Say something bad about it.
Yeah.
No. Okay. Josh says, I actually like The Apprentice a lot. Sorry. Oh no, we he said that already.
Oh yeah, we saw that.
That's fair. I can see why you find it tedious. Yeah. Yes, Madam Web. I think I figured that's what a lot of people were here for. So I was excited to talk about it for even a little bit. I love how Dakota Johnson had no idea what she was meant to do. I love her promo for the film where she's like doing this like really like strangely seductive like encouragement of you to go see Madam Web. It's wonderful.
And you'll love it so much you'll want to go see it twice.
Twice.
And she's like ASMR whispering to like the camera. Oh, it's great. It was so funny.
Yep. Jason says, yes, Madam Web, worst movie of the year. That CPR scene was so boring and it went on too long. Yeah, it's in that territory for me. Again, I don't necessarily find it offensive enough to be worst movie of the year, or to phrase it another way, I don't think I cared enough about it for it to be worst movie, but it's definitely one of the most poorly made for sure. The ADR in the build was so bad. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that was really funny. Love when he gets squashed by Pepsi.
Oh, that's incredible. It's Madam Web is a cult classic. I'm telling you.
Within 10 years, it'll be released by 101 Films. What is 101 Films?
Oh no, that's mean, Josh. 101 Films are like a British label that usually release like B-Z grade movies, like really kind of trashy movies sometimes. I like 101 Films. I think they're pretty good, but they do release a lot of like shit films. That's mean, Josh. That's mean.
Says the guy who just did that rant about the holdovers.
Yeah, but the holdovers is bad. I'm kidding.
Jason says Sydney Sweeney in a short skirt was the only good thing about that movie. She's very fun in the like, I don't know, like she has some fun moments and everything, but oh my god, like any other Sydney Sweeney movie like is so much better use of her talents.
Oh yeah, she's
immaculate.
Great. One of my favorites.
Yeah, any of that.
Reality, she's great in Reality.
Oh yeah, Reality, she's fantastic in. Yeah, she tough year for Sony with yeah, I mean they're canceling the whole project now, I think is yep.
Yeah.
Wish I liked Showgirls, wasn't for me sadly, but maybe after watching Anora it might hit better. I think both films are doing similar things in how they're trying to destigmatize sex work and just sort of I mean they have very different styles of course, but I think they're both trying to do that a little bit.
No, absolutely.
It is yeah. I know. Mine too, Josh. Yeah, I mean, I don't know a lot about the Alexander Payne allegations. I'm inclined to believe people who make allegations most of the time, unless it's I mean, eventually, if it's found out that it's not true, of course that's bad. But yeah, I mean, the allegations against Alexander Payne exist, and
they're not good.
Yeah. Yeah, Downsizing is boring. I The Holdovers is the only Alexander Payne film I've seen, so I need to watch some of the other ones.
I know, like Sideways is like really beloved. Without
Nebraska
being
too.
ironic, like saying he's like terrible. I know Sideways, and people like Election. I really didn't like Election, but I will watch Sideways at some point. Maybe I'll like it. I hope I can watch an Alexander Payne film I like one day. But just everything I've seen so far is just like, oh, not for me. Let's say.
Yeah. No, the Holdovers was top 10 favorite movies of 2023. I wanted Paul to win the Oscar. Part of me kind of did too, even though I really was Killian and Oppenheimer for me. But yeah, kind of. Weren't you rooting? Who were you rooting for? Was it
Fuck, who was out? Who else
the guy
was
for? Was it the
nominated?
American Fiction dude? Jeffrey Wright.
I don't know if I was rooting for Jeffrey Wright. Can you pull up the nominees that year? Just because I can't
Yeah, I
check.
can take a
I'm
look real
kind of
quick.
curious. I'm trying to remember. There was fuck, that wasn't Banshees. Yeah, Banshees of Inisherin. That was a year
No, that was
before.
the year after. So sorry, one second.
Who was
I
that
think
year?
I have the wrong year. 2024.
No, because
It
we watched that
was
together.
Killian Murphy, Bradley Cooper,
Oh,
Coleman Domingo, Paul Giamatti, and Jeffrey Wright. Yeah,
maybe it would have been Jeffrey Wright then, because I
I
didn't
think that's what
see.
it was when we
I
watched it.
fucking hated Bradley Cooper in Maestro. Awful,
Oh yeah,
awful performance. And I didn't
yeah,
see the one with Coleman Domingo in. So
me
yeah,
neither.
probably Jeffrey
Yeah,
Wright. Actually, yeah, he's pretty fun in American Fiction. Did you see
he is
American
pretty fun in
Fiction?
it. I did, yeah, and
Yeah,
I liked it. I
it's not
didn't love it,
great.
but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's
Um,
fine.
Angus is played by theater kids, so it tracks. Um, I'm flabbergasted by that take, the Holdovers one. You and me both, Jason. You and me both. Um, Election's one of my top 5 comedies. I love it. Yeah, it sounds great. I think I'm gonna watch it at some point to just piss Leon off.
Oh.
But anyway, I think we're on to my number 7. Is that right?
Yes, yes.
Yes. My number 7 is Megalopolis.
No.
So okay, I'm not one of the people that says it's like the worst movie ever. There were a lot of like pretty shocking takes about the film when it was first released and everything, even at film festivals. But I do think it is probably one of the most egotistical pieces of art I've ever seen in my life, to the point where I like, it's not in a sense of like I find this like an interesting like late style sort of expression for this old like washed artist. I just find it completely insufferable. Like, okay, so the entire like drama of the movie is that Adam Driver is an architect. So he's an artist in the same way that Francis Ford Coppola is an artist, and he has this grand vision for something. And the drama is that he's the most brilliant guy, and he needs to be given all of the resources to build the greatest thing ever. What would you know? Francis Ford Coppola also is releasing a movie that costs $200 million, and he's proclaiming as the greatest thing in the world, even though it is a shallow piece of shit. And I don't know why people, especially in the Discord that Leon and I are in for this podcast, Lezoids, so many people in that group chat are like, no, this is like a really interesting, like late style, like this is just the master at work again. I don't understand where people are coming from on this. Like,
Can I
I know, I
clip
do
this and
realize,
share it to the Sleazoids?
yeah,
Thank you.
uh, yeah, go ahead and do that at some point. It's just it's so baffling to me that some people have that takeaway, because it is just like, to me, it is totally a case of the Emperor has absolutely no clothes on whatsoever. It's just Francis Ford Coppola swinging his dong in the air for everyone, and my God, there are some funny moments in it. I like the John Voight boner gag. I like Aubrey Plaza in the film quite a bit. But yeah, like, so it's so weird too, because there are some really beautiful images in it. But
Yeah.
then there are also images in it that are like worse than anything Marvel has ever done, in terms of like the garishness of like how fucking digital and just absolutely like horrendous it looks. So
I rewatched
Megalopolis.
it recently and kind of liked it, even though I hated it at the cinema. Yeah, no, this isn't one that I'm gonna be like racing to defend as like some unsung masterpiece or anything. I had a very similar experience and like response to it when I caught it last year. I saw it in IMAX, and I was just like, after like the hour mark, I was like, I want to go home. I don't want to watch the rest of this. It's so long. It feels so long. But the other day, like a couple of days back, I revisited the film. Watched it at home, and while I still have a lot of issues with it, I did find it a bit more entertaining, I guess you could say, and it felt like going into it knowing what I was in for. I was like, yeah, I can deal with this. It's really it's overlong. It's really pretentious, but that kind of has like a bit of like again like ironic enjoyment. Like it adds to the ironic enjoyment factor of the film. I do think the film is really funny, both intentionally and unintentionally. I think
What
sometimes
are
when
the
it's like
intentional things? Because
the
I'm really
bowling
trying to
gag is
understand here.
incredible. Everything John Voight
Okay.
does in that film, is particularly on a rewatch, is incredible. Aubrey Plaza is like chewing scenery like crazy, and also
She's very good. Like
I
it
think
might
Adam
be.
Driver is both
Yeah.
great and terrible in the film. There are some parts where like his when he's screaming, he's like, no, no, that is really unintentionally funny. But the go back to the club line delivery is fucking
It's
gold.
which
It's so
I
good.
mean it's gold out of context, but it makes no sense in the movie. Like it just jumps out of the scene as like what is this? Because it
But
was
well,
clearly
because everyone's
improvised. Like
changed
Francis was just like, okay, do whatever. Like
because
like
because throughout the entire film, everybody's changing accent. Like the co-lead, Nathalie Emmanuel, I forget her name. The girl,
yeah. Yeah, the what the wife, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
she changes like accents like multiple times throughout the film too. So I think it's like almost like they knew they were on a sinking ship in many ways, but they're too committed to like just phone it in. So they're just kind of having
Yeah.
fun and having a blast. Like there's that one sequence where like Driver's character Caesar is like tripping and he's literally just like sticking his tongue out and wiggling his fingers during like a crazy sequence. I'm like, this is so stupid, but it's really funny. And I
Yeah.
found a lot of like humor to be found in Megalopolis. And honestly, I'm gonna say I found it a little less pretentious going into it because I almost felt like I don't want to say it's tongue in cheek, and I'm sure there'll be people defending it as, oh, dude, it's ironic. No, I do actually believe that Francis thinks
Oh,
he's
he's
making
totally
some
genuine.
like
Like he
epic
is
masterpiece
totally
and everything. But I also think that at times, like, there are parts of him where he's like, yeah, but this is a little silly, isn't it? I think there are moments where that
yeah.
ego kind of cracks a bit and
Yes.
he's
Yeah.
having
Yeah, I
fun.
think so.
And that's what I really like about the film. It's something that I will say, even when I had it at like a two, I think I removed my score initially, but like I had it at around like a 2 star for until my rewatch, which I bumped it up to a 3 star. I always had it in the back of my mind, like it's probably the most memorable film of the year for both good and bad reasons. Like it's something that we're never going to see something like it ever
It
again,
is
and it's
true.
kind of insane that we even saw something of this scale just happen in general and get a wide enough release that we could go and purchase tickets to it, and it's not some weird
Yeah.
fucking art house film that has like I don't know, playing in like 4 theaters across the world or something. Like the
Yeah.
fact that this got a wide release in general is just
So was that in
absolutely
like
baffling.
this was at like some multiplexes. This was at the Alamo Draft House that I go to.
Oh, it's
This is
insane.
it was yeah. Um
But yeah, no, I see why it's so
I also will say
popular.
about it. I think we kind of alluded to it. I think Aubrey Plaza in it. It might be there's a Mark Kermode video where he like takes questions from the audience about like best performances in the worst movies ever. I think that might be like my definitive answer is like
That's
Aubrey
fair.
Plaza and Megalopolis best performance in the worst movie.
No, that's very fair.
Good job.
Oh god.
That's anyway. I'm done ranting about Megalopolis. I've noticed this list so far has been much more contentious and like different than
It has.
our best of the year.
I will say I think there's going to be quite a bit of crossover when it gets to the top five. I feel
I
like
think you're
I
right.
don't know
I think you're
your
right.
list. You've seen 4 of the 5 films in my top 5, and I think
Okay.
we'll have some equal playing around there. But
Okay.
my number
Well, once we get
six.
to before, yeah, number 6. Let's go. Yeah.
I'll be quick about this one because I don't have a lot to say. I just thought it was fucking terrible in almost every way. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2. So I saw the
Oh, I
first
even
Blood and
forgot
Honey.
about that. Yeah.
And the first Blood and Honey is a really, really bad film, but it also has the excuse of being made for like pennies. Like it's shit, but it's like dime a dozen to the type of shit you'd see on Tubi or just like uploaded to YouTube or Prime or something. A really bad, unremarkable film. There's one part in the film where somebody calls Winnie the Pooh a nonce, which is like another word for like a pedophile.
No, I know
That's
what the yeah.
really funny. That's like the only funny thing about the first film. But Winnie Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 2 was being touted as like, oh, this time we have a budget and we're bringing in like effects artists, and oh, this, and there was like this really, really long thread about a few weeks before the film release by the writer of this film, because he hadn't read, he didn't write the first film, but he went on this huge, like, I don't know, about 30 tweets, like rant, or not even rant really, just like explanation. He was like, hey, the director came up to me and he was like, hey, I know people didn't like the first film, and we took all of the complaints from the first film and we tried to craft something that had real character to it, that actually tried to make a really cohesive, interesting film, and we brought people in to compose the score, and it was like him facing up to the fact that the first film was shit, and he wanted to set out to make a really good film this time. I don't know. That probably was the intent, but it does not translate into a good film. And here's another take that no one else seems to agree with me. I think it's worse than the first film. A lot of people say this one's actually not too bad, and they say it's an improvement because the kills are better. But like, I'm not somebody who will go into a horror film and say, "Wow, gore equates to a good film." I think the opening 5 minutes of this film are so unpleasant, and not even in the sense that the film was going for, because the opening 5 minutes, like the opening kill, like the opening stinger of the film, is essentially the woodland critters of Winnie the Pooh. Like, I think it's like Tigger and
Eeyore,
not Eeyore, the other, who's Piglet.
Piglet,
Um,
yeah.
and I think Pooh as well. Pooh's there too. And they're basically, there's just like a girl out and about. It might be like a group or something, but I just remember in particular, it focuses on this one female character, I don't know, like early 20s or something. It's like they pick someone out of like a porn film or something. And all that happens is she only exists there not to be a character, but so these characters can like rip off her limbs and like torture and maim her in the most like aggressive, mean-spirited way that just felt so like misogynistic and horrible. Like, you know, the worst kind of slashers where it's like they're just like derogatory to women almost, and it just feels like they're
Sure.
there just to, oh dude, isn't it cool that you're seeing a woman get like battered and stuff. It
Right,
came off
right,
and
right.
it just set the tone immediately. I was like, this is fucking horrible. And then as the film progresses, it tries to do like the Terrifier 2 thing, or the recent Scream thing of like, oh dude, Christopher Robin is so traumatized by the events of the first film, because in this universe, in the film, the first Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey film was a film in that universe based on the events of
Oh my
what
god.
he went through, and it's trying to do that whole meta thing, but it just fucking fails because it makes no sense and it completely contradicts itself, because it's written by a bunch of people who, I hate to say this, but just don't know how to make a fucking film. It's so boring when it isn't like plainly misogynistic and just like amateur in almost every conceivable way. If you've seen a horror film, that deals with like traumatic themes in the past, you've seen Blood and Honey. If you're there purely just for gratuitous like kills or something, maybe there's enjoyment to be had there. But I was so checked out almost immediately from just how like nasty the tone was. And don't get me wrong, I love mean-spirited films. I think I bring this up whenever I talk about mean-spirited, but I like fucking Ebola Syndrome, one of the most vile and depraved films I think I've ever seen in my entire life. I think it's really funny, but this is just like, it's mean and leery in a way that just I found really uncomfortable, really unpleasant, and it's one that I don't understand how people are saying it's better than the first. If anything, at least the first film has the excuse that it was made for next to nothing, and it's from some guy who I don't think the director had made anything before that. I know he'd produced a handful of films, but I think that might have been his directorial debut. And it's like, at least then you've got the excuse of, hey, it's someone trying to make a film. He's had that experience, and this has a budget that's like, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 times the amount of that initial one. And it just results in a film that is misogynistic, unpleasant, boring, stale, generic, and just fucking atrocious.
Yeah.
Not much fun to be said about that one. I just think it's a deeply, deeply awful film. And that's my number
All right.
6. Yeah.
Did not see that one. I was kind of like, after the first one, I was like, I don't think I'll be watching any more of these.
No,
But
I don't think you'll like it.
interesting take. All right. My number 6 is, I actually don't remember if you saw this. Did you see Argyle?
No. I did not.
Okay, you're like, yeah, that I'm staying away from that.
I watched some shit, but that one, no.
No, I remember the poster Like I was like, that is the most like January looking movie I've ever seen in a derogatory way. Whereas like The
Oh yeah.
Beekeeper came out last year, I was like, that's the most January film I've ever seen in a good way.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is like kind of as just a standard. It's a spy film in the way that like Kingsman is a spy film. I mean, also directed by Matthew Vaughn as well. Not exactly like I don't know. It's not like a real like sort of intrigue espionage sort of thing. And much like the other Matthew Vaughn movies that I've seen, the action is terrible, and everything has this horrific digital sheen to it. But that's not really the part that I want to emphasize as like as terrible. It's the humor, but it's also the sort of meta element of the film. I don't know how much you're aware of the twist of the film.
Oh, like the third act. Like I mean the. I've heard.
It's not even the third act. I think it's quite a bit earlier. Yeah.
Is it
so
yes, I'm aware of the connection.
So I won't spoil it for anybody that hasn't seen it, but essentially, weirdly, it's kind of similar to Synecdoche, New York. And it's like a really stupid version of something like that, where like it's like the whole world is kind of revolving around like what the author has created, and it becomes this sort of metafiction thing. But yeah, just like so insufferable. Just I don't even know what else to say. I mean, like it was just again like just sort of it was another one of those movies, sort of like Madam Web, but to a much worse degree, that sort of just washed over me. And there's actually very little I remember about it as well. So
I mean, at least Madam Web has the excuse of being like an hour and 40 minutes. Isn't Argo like 220 or 230 or something?
Oh, it feels so long. Like let me check real quick. Yeah, 220. It's crazy long.
God.
I don't know how I got through that actually. Why did I do that to myself?
Probably January, I'm guessing. Was it January? Did you watch it in January?
No, I don't think so. I think I watched it in February because or March because I didn't watch it in theaters. I was like, I'm not going to go pay for that. And I think a lot of people agree. The movie lost a lot of money. It was like a $200 million movie.
And I think with marketing and just how they were like setting up future films, I'm not kidding when I think I heard like a figure that it had to have grossed like something like 700 or 800 million to be profitable. Like in terms of, because it was an Apple TV film that then got a theatrical push, so that it's like all these companies were buying it, all of the marketing, because its marketing was fucking everywhere, how much they'd spent on it and how much they'd spent like investing into the future of the franchise, and it was like a huge fucking disaster. So hopefully that's the last we ever see of that fucking film.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm not somebody that loves to like shame films that bomb at the box office, but it's weird that like nowadays there does seem to be, it used to be the case that of the most expensive movies, you really could see all the money on the screen. I mean, like if you're going back to old Hollywood, of course, like something like Lawrence of Arabia, you could see the money on the screen. And now it's like there's almost like an inverse relationship between how much a film costs and how good it looks. For some reason, it's like, and it's the only thing I can sort of glean out of that is that just most of the money's going to A-list actors. Like it's just to get them on like doing this big budget action movie.
No, absolutely. Like, think about it. Like the Flash had a budget of like $300 million. It's not reflected in the film itself.
Yeah,
it's probably just down to how long that film was delayed and all of the reshoots and having like
especially because like
and stuff.
Yeah, because I saw The Brutalist last night. That film looks amazing for whatever. Like I had some issues with it, but I mean, like mostly I really enjoyed the experience. It is one of the best looking films I've seen in a long time. It's shot on VistaVision film. It's very expensive to shoot on film. It's got a couple A-list actors in it. It's 3.5 hours long. They say it cost $10 million to make that. Like if we're what is the how can that exist and Argyle exist for their respective budgets? I don't understand it.
Yeah. Oh, it's crazy.
But anyway,
Argyle,
that's my number 6.
I never want to see again. I never want to see in general. I was gonna say.
All right, what's your number 5?
Okay. Whew. You can join in on this one. This might be higher on your list, but
okay.
This is if you ask anybody around me, like technically kind of like when I was ranting with the holdovers, if you ask anybody around me what my most discussed film of the year is in terms of how much I bitch and complain about it. This is probably number one, but I do think there are films worse than it that came out this year, although I fucking hated it. And that is Deadpool and Wolverine, directed by Sean Levy. Holy fuck. Right. So here's the thing. I have a weird relationship with the Deadpool films because when they first came out, I was like, oh, this is fun, this is really creative, blah blah blah. And then we had the what I'd like to call the oversaturation of one Ryan Rodney Reynolds, one of the most insufferable actors working today, because he
Yes.
doesn't act, he just plays the same fucking character in every single film. And it's funny because in the past he's proven to have range. Like Buried is pretty good, like a pretty solid thriller. And although I don't like it,
Adventureland is
Adventureland's
he's
good.
got a great like supporting role in that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and in the Amityville horror remake from like the mid 2000s, not a good film, but Reynolds is like really trying in that, and he's actually quite intimidating and scary, which is something I never thought I'd say for a fucking Ryan Reynolds performance. But he's trying. But ever since the whole like Deadpool era of his career, it's just every single fucking film he's been in has just been the same thing. It's such a tired shtick at this point, and I went from like enjoying those first two films when they initially came out to like souring on them a bit as time goes on to dreading this film here, because it was directed by Sean Levy, the man behind such classics as Real Steel, The Internship, Free Guy, The Adam Project, The Pink Panther with Steve Martin, the Night at the Museum
Night at the Museum
trilogy.
isn't the first one's not too bad. The first one's not too bad.
I will revisit it. I remember it being really bad, but he's Cheaper by the Dozen with Steve Martin, just like one of the most like just kind of like empty, like just soulless filmmakers working right now who has no real creative like spark whatsoever. When I heard he was attached to the project, I was like, oh god, because Free Guy, the first Reynolds and Levy collaboration, was
Yeah.
terrible. And then yeah, I wasn't even gonna go see the film, but my friend was like, hey, I'll pay for your ticket if you go see it. Jacob, you still haven't fucking given me the money for that ticket yet. I'm calling you out now. I want the money back for that ticket, because you said if I paid for a ticket, you would pay for it. I don't like that I supported that film, so I'm still waiting for that, Jacob. Anyway,
This stream is we're loan sharks for Jacob now.
we are, because yeah, no, he was like, oh, it'll be fun. He'd already seen the film, and no, I will say the film got 3 laughs out of me. 3 laughs out of me, which aren't even particularly good. They're very like low hanging fruit, and like I can't really say, oh yeah, they're great jokes or anything. There's a bit of a funny miscommunication with one of the epic random cameos in the film, played by fuck it. I mean, everyone knows about the film. I don't care if spoiler alert for Deadpool and Wolverine for those who really care. Blade, he mishears a line, and I think his delivery is really funny in that one like sequence. It's not a good joke, but it's funny. There's like, and then Channing Tatum plays Gambit, and Channing Tatum's having a lot of fun in the film. I'll give him that. But overall, it's just a film that exists purely to I don't know, like there's issues I have with it outside of it just being like another one of these fucking multiverse films where it's just an excuse to dangle keys in front of you like Alien Romulus to say, hey, remember thing from the past? Here's thing from the past. Enjoy, consume. Fucking They Live style. It's just like consume garbage for whatever. I hate that about the film. I hate the it's a really lazy, soulless, ugly, disgusting looking film as a blockbuster for a budget of like 200 million. It looks like fucking garbage. It has this like sludge color grade to it where there's no interesting cinematography whatsoever. And when it tries to do the flashy cinematography, like it's opening bye bye bye, like funny haha opening credits because, oh dude, he's dancing and he's killing people to a pop song. Isn't that so fucking funny? Red Rocket has a better usage of bye 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 and actually like utilizes it and incorporates it into both the themes of the character and the opening credits, and it's just such a better use. And I hate that everyone's going to think of Deadpool over a good fucking great Sean Baker film instead of a Sean Levy joint. But like outside of the really bad and atrocious action sequences and everything, there's an awful like do you remember like the bus scene that's like ripping off Old Boy, like that really awful fucking one take sequence during the third act?
Yeah.
Atrocious filmmaking that It's like, oh, dude, give us epic Reddit karma because we get a digital stitched together one take. It's like the
Yeah,
sequence
it's
in
one of the most
Hallboy is
Reddit
one of the
movies I think I've seen.
Oh, absolutely. It's one of the
Yeah.
most amazing action sequences ever in the original Old Boy film and everything. And it's just like using that formula to be like, dude, wouldn't it be cool if like Deadpool was a flying head and Deadpool fucking killed himself? It's like, shut the fuck up. Like, honestly, it's so stupid. It's so annoying. It's like, it's a film like I am, again, I don't want to be mean because I'm sure there'll be people who've watching this right now who enjoyed it. And this isn't like an attack on anybody who likes the film, but it's just a film for man children who want to clap at references. I'm not saying that's everybody who likes the film. I like, dude, my sister liked the film, and I think she liked it because she thought it was funny. I'm not saying it's for that, but like, it feels like when I was in the cinema watching it, and people who hadn't seen it before, and they were watching it, and they would clap because they see fucking Blade or something. It's like, if that's all film is to you, and then you still simultaneously get upset at someone like Martin Scorsese saying films are a theme park ride when you are literally acting like they are an attraction for you to clap and laugh at because, hey, I know that thing, then I don't understand what film means to you. And again, you can enjoy the film. Like, people who enjoy the film just as a funny, oh, it's a funny film to throw on, whatever. But if you take it seriously and you think that it's one of the best films of the year because, hey, I know that thing, I don't know. I don't think we'd ever be able to really like connect much on like film takes whatsoever because it feels like the degradation of film as an art form. It's so anti-art, it's so soulless. And also, one other thing I will say about the film is I really don't like how homophobic the film is. And this isn't me going all liberal like, oh dude, it's offensive or anything. I just, ever since the marketing came out and every poster was just like, oh dude, it's like Wolverine's claws and Deadpool's like holding on with like a ring, and it's like all of the gay jokes in the film, and people are gonna say, oh dude, the character of Deadpool's pansexual. Everyone uses that as a like a get out of
Like a
jail,
cop out. Yeah,
yeah, like
yeah.
a cop out, but never in any of those fucking Deadpool films is he listed like he comes out as pansexual or gay or anything. He has a female love interest, and it's the only love interest he has in those films. So I don't care what's going on in the comics. I'm talking about these films. Every single gay character is either, and this like people might think like when I was joking earlier about like the holdovers being like reaching into like reading into it. I'm serious about what I'm saying now. Every single gay character in Deadpool and Wolverine is used either as a joke, either as a weirdo, or as a fucking sex pest, and it's fucking disgusting. There's like a scene where Deadpool's suiting up and he's like, that guy is a fucking sex pest or a pedophile because he like grabs his junk. And then there's a guy who's like really infatuated with him, and the whole gag of the film is just, oh, he loves him. And then Deadpool points out, hey, this guy's fucking weird, isn't he? Or how he keeps coming on to like Wolverine and stuff constantly, even though Wolverine doesn't want it. And it just portrays every single like act of like homosexuality or like a gay character in that film like a fucking freak show or something, or like that's something to be mocked and laughed at. And I truly believe it's one of the most homophobic films I've seen in quite some time, and it just worries me because like I don't know, we're in an era right now where like if right this second so much is going on in the world, especially in the past few days with that whole Zuckerberg shit and everything, where it just seems like
Yeah.
homophobia is back on the table, transphobia is back on the table, and it feels
It
like
does
this is
seem
like the
like it's
stepping
now
stone of
okay for
that.
yeah, it does seem like it's okay for that stuff to be in the mainstream again, which is just
Yeah, and
really
I don't
scary, you
like
know?
that because
Yeah.
we're in an era where like some people might think, oh, everything's too progressive nowadays or whatever, but I don't think there's any issue with people being able to express themselves for who they are and like whatever sexuality, gender, all of that stuff. I love that people are able to express themselves, and I think Deadpool and Wolverine sets a dangerous precedent that it's fun to mock these marginalized groups again, and it's a film that cracked over $1 billion at the box office. So people are paying for
Yeah.
this, people are laughing at it, people are enjoying it, and it's just worrying because I'm thinking we're going to go back to the 2000s again, where it's like, dude, where's my car? Where like the entire gimmick of that film is haha dude transphobia. And yeah,
Sure,
it
sure,
might
sure.
just be a few harmless gay jokes here and there, but it just really irked me. It was really grossly marketed as just haha funny gays, and the film just continues to do that time and time again. So yeah, no, the more I think about it, I kind of wish I bumped this up a little bit more. But I mean, the next few films we've got are
Yeah,
fucking
I mean,
atrocious too.
so
So
here's what I'm gonna
yeah.
do. It's my number four. We're pretty close to doing it. So I'll just kind of jump in with you real
Yeah,
quick, and we
no,
can
that's
kind of
fair.
skip it
Yeah,
once
go
it's
for
on
it.
my list. I don't have
Yeah.
too much more to add. I agree with a lot of that, especially in terms of just the Ryan Reynolds isms and like the humor of the movie is just not for me. Like I just don't
Ooh.
connect to that whatsoever. I saw something on social media recently that just was I think it was on a John Waters like appreciation Instagram account, but it was just talking about how it was a John Waters quote about how irony has ruined art in a way. And I think
Yeah.
it's a bit exaggerated because there's plenty of things I like that are ironic, but yeah, I mean, I do think that the idea that especially like popcorn entertainment, like everything has to like wink at you all the time, I think is just a really bad thing for media. I think it kind of limits a lot of what can be made going forward. I agree with you. I didn't like the like I in terms of like what I found about like the film being homophobic or whatever. I don't really think it's like to that. I didn't find it like super damaging or anything, just because I think the film says nothing. Like I just think it's such a
That's
nothing
fair.
film, and so it was less offensive to me than it just was annoying, I would say.
No,
But
that's fair.
but yeah, but it might be the most annoying film I've seen this year. I mean, it's incredibly high on my worst of the year list. I don't understand the praise for it whatsoever. I don't like Deadpool in general. The first one I think is okay. The second one I really didn't like, and then this one I hated. But the thing is, like my wife, she's actually like a decent fan of Deadpool. Like like I think she really had a great time with the first two, and she hated this one. Like we were both watching it together. Like this is like the most insufferable thing I've ever seen in my life. This
Oh
is just
no.
like again the same humor, but also just like the references are just so insufferable.
Ooh.
So yeah, that's
Um,
what I'll add. It's
and I'll say
it's
one
bad. I
more.
don't have too much more.
I'll say one more thing as well, and it's just what you pointed out about the John Waters quote. It just reminded me. I don't know if you heard the recent Sleazoids episode where they paired. I think it was like Big Trouble in Little China with Last of the Mohicans.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
listen to the Mohicans section because I haven't seen that film yet, but I
Same.
listened to the Big Trouble section, and they point something out in that which, like, when you were talking about irony, but it just like popped in my head again. And it's there's a gag in Big Trouble in Little China where they're like trying to escape from the facility and everything about halfway through the film, and they like open the door and there's a bunch of guys there, and then they close it, and it's almost like a goofy like, oh haha, I didn't expect it, and it's like a bit of a ironic kind of gag because it's like, oh, the enemies are right there, and they close the door as if nothing
Right.
happened. And I think Josh
Yeah.
says in the like a podcast, he says something along the lines of, nowadays if that happened in a film I'd just like groan and roll my eyes or something, but it feels more genuine like in like an 80s film then, especially
Yeah.
because the character is such a doofus. Like Kurt Russell's character,
That's the
Jack
whole
Byrne, in
point
that film
of the
is a
film.
fucking doofus. But like in
Yeah.
a film like Deadpool and Wolverine, where you'll have like a moment where, oh, I don't know, Deadpool will get stabbed or something, and he'll be like, well, that just happened, or like he'll like have like this self-referential like quip about it or something. It's like, yes, I get that the character is fourth wall breaking, but when that's all the character has to offer in terms of humor, it gets so fucking boring and so stale and so uninteresting and uncreative. And yes, you can say that's what it's like in the comic books or whatever, but like at least Big Trouble in Little China, when it's having a gag like that, it's A, at the expense of the character, and B, it's not every joke in the film. Like Kurt Russell is giving such a fucking funny performance in that film because there are so many different situations he's thrown into, so many different senses of humor. There's physical comedy, there's him being a doofus in general, there's him trying to like make it with people, there's him trying to be an action star. Like there's so much going on in that film, and it's so kind of like such a variety of types of humor and stuff. But
Yeah.
then in Deadpool, all you've got is references and, wow guys, isn't it funny but I'm in a movie. And
Yeah.
I find that so fucking insufferable, and it's bled into so much media, not just Ryan Reynolds stuff, but so many films nowadays. And I truly believe like Deadpool might be the worst thing to happen to cinema in like the 2010s, like
Yeah.
without
Yeah.
exaggeration.
I think it's
Um,
definitely in tandem with some other the Marvel stuff. Even though I do, I'm a big fan of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and
yeah,
some
they're,
things in
they're
there. But
great.
yeah, no, okay, yeah, no, I'm glad we could both kind of talk about that, and I could sort of, yeah,
Yes.
we can. Again, it's my number 4. I'll just kind of skip it when we get there. But
What's your number five?
my number 5 is a film. I think it's the last film on my list that you haven't seen. Uh, it's Reagan.
I really want to
So
see this.
so what's the name of the company that did the but I think like Dennis Quaid was behind this in terms of not just like he stars in the film, but I think he was also like a major producer on the film as well. I'm taking a
Okay.
look at because it's a very has propaganda written all over it in terms of like some of the money behind it and all that. Obviously it coming out during an election year as well. Had a pretty limited release from what I understand. Most theaters in around me, it was like hard to find in the way that I don't know. So like Megalopolis was probably even more so than Megalopolis was hard to find. But yeah, so this is directed by Sean McNamara, who has a very weird filmography. I've strangely seen quite a few of his films, and
What else
it's
has he
like
made?
so he made the Bratz movie. He made Soul Surfer, which is about the surfer that gets her arm bitten off by a shark and then surfs. It's an interesting story, but it's just like the most like kind of saccharine, like version of that you can imagine. He did the Sweet Life of Zack and Cody movie. He did a bunch of Disney Channel type shit. But yes, Reagan is exactly what it sounds like. It's a biopic of Ronald Reagan, starring Dennis Quaid and also David Henry, other Disney Channel connection. Justin from Wizards of Waverly Place plays young
Okay.
Reagan, who is he's on the poster of the poster I chose for Letterboxd. It's just him in like a 1920 swimsuit. Anyway, yeah, this so what's really funny about the film, in addition to all of the hilarious sort of like biopic isms of just like how like it's very much like a political version of like Walk Hard, but like not not ironic, it's doing that exact really tired formula of just like going through the motions of a person's life and everything. But I totally lost my train of thought on this one. Let me take a look at my review so I just remember what I wanted to say here. Oh yeah,
Can you share your story about how you watched it?
yeah, I watched I went to the Seven Seas to watch this one. And normally when I do that, it's like substantially after a film has been released in theaters, because I don't like watching cam copies because they look like shit. This one was a cam copy, but I didn't notice until midway through. And the reason I noticed was it was actually a really good quality. So I didn't notice because of like the quality of the film or the sound or anything. I noticed because I started hearing snoring midway through. And it was because somebody in the theater, either the person recording it or a person next to them, had fallen asleep and was very loudly snoring. So that tells you a little bit about how entertaining it is. The funniest thing about it as a biopic, though, is actually I think the structure of it is hilarious. So it actually takes place years at like in I want to say like the 90s, where they're so John Voight. It's around the time of the collapse of the Soviet Union. John Voight plays this Russian character who is basically like it's literally it's Amadeus. It's like he's the Salieri character talking about Reagan as Amadeus.
Oh
and
my
and
god.
he's doing the most hammy Russian accent you could possibly imagine. It's kind of great. It's
This
like
sounds great.
it's kind of worth watching for that. But I mean, again, the film is incredibly boring. It's like again just the most sort of basic biopic you can think of, and every like sort of interesting beat is just there to sort of like reinforce propaganda about Reagan. Like they like kind of like they have this like montage that's like sort of like what you would see on YouTube of like, oh yeah, Reagan best debate owning moments and all that. Um, but it's Dennis Quaid doing it, and it's amazing to see how committed he is to this performance. I mean, I think the film is pretty insidious, though. I think that like trying to make a movie that's just sort of it's very much trying to turn a politician with a very complicated legacy into like a cult of personality, like godlike figure, which to me is just very very sus. And like anytime somebody does that, I'm like, okay, this is some propaganda type stuff. So yeah, for both for that and just how poorly made the thing is, it's got to make the list.
It sounds incredible. I'll be sure to check it out soon. I didn't know we
You
were
gotta
talking
at
about
least
best
watch.
films of the year list.
Do we just at the very least see if you can find the John Voight stuff online, because it's incredible.
It sounds amazing. I was that amazing pick. I really need to see that. I was gonna say, let's get into some comments because you
Yes.
skipped.
We only have one.
Done your number 4, so
we only
I'll
have
get
one
back to
comment
that
since
after.
I think we were a little bit long-winded on that, but Humble Columbus, I think it might be his first time. I don't know if I've seen this guy on the channel. So hey, welcome to the channel. How's it going, man? Good to
Hey,
see you.
hi.
I like Election, but over the past few years, I've gone off Matthew Broderick and Reese Witherspoon a bit. Okay. Fan of Alexander Payne, though. Yeah, I mean, I feel like Broderick isn't. I mean, he's, like, I like some of his classic 80s movies, but not the most interesting performer, certainly. Reese Witherspoon, I have less of an opinion about. I think she's fine, but yeah.
Is that really the only comment we've had? Even though we talked about Deadpool, I thought.
I think it's I think some of it might just be like a lot of people really like Deadpool, man. Like a lot of people really like that movie.
I was kind of like, I know this is probably bad to say, but I was kind of hoping there'd be some like Deadpool truthers in the comments so we can have some interesting like discussion. But no, that's fine. That's fine. Okay. Number 4, this absolutely is going to be on your list. And honestly, if I'm being fair, I'm going to retroactively say that this is going to be my number 5, because the more I think about Deadpool and Wolverine, the more it pisses me off. So that's going down. So that is also my number 4. We'll share that. So this one is my number 5. We're going backwards. It's weird. I've flipped them around. But anyway, this one here, I don't have a lot to say about this. I know there's one scene in it that you love. It's mostly just a really fucking dull, boring, uninteresting film. It actually marks the directorial debut for one of the most successful comedians of all time.
I think I know where you're going with this.
We're talking about the Netflix piece of content, Unfrosted, directed by Jerry Seinfeld. One of the most bizarre movies I've seen all year. A film that is not funny even remotely. A film that is so boring, so safe, so just kind of by the numbers that like my nan could have made it. Like there's no real bite to it. There's no satire. There's nothing witty about it. And from who arguably is the most I don't know, most notorious comedian, almost like what a prolific comedian ever. I know he's got like an insane net worth. It's kind of insane that he made something as shitty as this that is so forgettable that like I almost forgot to put it on the list. Like if I was writing this list out, I would have forgot this film A came out this year, B was directed by Jerry Seinfeld, or C even fucking exists, because outside of appearing on worst lists, I don't think this film is like ever being brought up, because it's such a nothing burger of a film. Really
there was some
boring
discourse about it when it came out, like back in like March or April or whenever that was. Like there was a lot of like chatter about it on, I think it was like pretty high up on like most watch lists on Letterboxd for a time, and then it just like disappeared. Like nobody's talking about it.
It's I didn't even get into what the film's about. It's about the creation of Pop-Tarts. And like the rival.
Everyone wanted to know about that. That's
everyone really wanted to know the origin of the company who behind fucking Pop-Tarts and the rivals they had with the other fucking shit. Oh god. I assume this is on your list too. Is this higher or is this around the same point?
It's higher.
Oh god.
Wait a minute though. Actually, let me check for something real quick. No, it's my next. It would be my next one, because like I skipped my number 4. It's my number 3. We just do this in tandem.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it again, because you probably have a lot more to say about it than me. It's just something for me that like
no. I don't have a lot more to say about it than you. I get another one of those ones that just washed over me. But I have something to say about it. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's just I don't even know. Like my head feels like a void right now, but like I knew it had to be on the list because while watching it, I was just like, in the same vein as how I was talking about Deadpool and Wolverine, it almost feels like anti-art because there's just nothing creative
Yeah.
about it whatsoever. It feels like Jerry Seinfeld got all of his rich buddies together so they could do haha funny like ad libs on set about like the most thinly veiled plot of all time. Like I couldn't tell you like what like convinced him or what inspired him to make a movie about the fucking creation of Pop Tarts. I can't tell you why this was what he decided to make his directorial debut after like fucking 70 years on planet Earth. Like it's fucking
He
bizarre. I
didn't
just
direct the
don't know
B
why it
movie?
exists. He didn't. He wrote B movie, but he
Okay.
didn't
All right.
direct it. This is his directorial debut. I don't even think he directed any episodes of TV. This is the first thing he's ever directed in his entire
Interesting.
life, which is just
You can tell.
baffling. Oh, most definitely. It's like we were talking earlier about some films about you mentioned as a dishonorable mention like Pool Man being like so
Yeah.
incompetently filmed and everything. This kind of reeks of that same energy where Jerry's just like, fuck it, I'll make a film, but he doesn't have any understanding of what filmmaking is or what makes a film work. It just feels
Right.
like an elongated SNL sketch that's 2 hours long.
Yeah.
Oh, it's terrible. But I know you loved the January 6th scene, so why don't you talk about that for a bit?
I agree with a lot of what you said. With it feels like Jerry Seinfeld got like every old head washed comedian like that he knows to make a movie. And yeah, for some reason they were like, yes, the invention of the Pop Tart was very funny and very creative. I think it was is that a lot of there's kind of a trend now of these like, for lack of a better term, like capitalist biopics or like product biopics. Like there was the Flaming Hot
Yes,
Cheetos movie. On the
Tetris
other end of the
movie,
spectrum, yeah, the Tetris movie. On the other end of the spectrum, there was Blackberry, which I've heard is very good, and I still haven't seen it yet, but
amazing
I'll get around to it. But where the drama of the movie is like, how good at capitalism are our characters and everything, and it's like this has that as well. It's you don't buy into it because everything, like you said, is an SNL sketch. Everything is like nothing's taken seriously, which of course you don't want things to always necessarily be taken seriously for a comedy, but but like it doesn't even feel like they're in a movie. It just everything just
No,
feels so strung together and like kind of thrown in at the last minute kind of thing. And then yeah, as you alluded to, there's a part where basically what is it that are they trying to like raid like the Kellogg's
something like that. Yeah, it's like
headquarters
Hugh
to like
Grant is
stop the
playing Tony the Tiger or whatever.
yes. Yeah, and he's got on the horns of like QAnon shaman from January 6th, and they're trying to do like a whole joke about January 6th basically, which is just like bizarre, not funny, like stupid if you're trying to make a point about it in like a timely way. Like there's just no like I can't believe somebody decided to put that in a movie.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of why it's on my list. But yeah, it's just it's so unfunny. Like
Oh
is
yeah.
it the lowest comedy on my list? It is. Yeah, it's the worst comedy of the year. Yeah.
I have I have one that could be kind of considered a comedy, but it's also like an action film. But yeah, no, my lowest comedy too. Oh no, Deadpool and Wolverine now because I flipped them around. Like this is still fucking atrocious, but I think Deadpool's a bit worse.
Mhm.
But still, yeah, no, it's just a horrendous film. And I'm glad that we're done talking about it now because I never have to think about it ever again. Like I can just live
So
my life never thinking
yeah.
about Unfrosted again.
So because we did like I kind of like jumped in with my number 4 and my number 3. So I guess we should do your number 3 now.
My number three. Oh, I think this might be higher for you. I think this might be another one where you can jump into. I'm sorry for hijacking the structure, but I think we have so many shared kind of films at this
More
point.
so
So,
than the best of the year one. Like that one, we
oh,
had a lot
yes.
of like ones. Like there were a lot. I think there was a fair amount where like something I put on my list like barely didn't make yours, or if it was like a 3-star movie or something like that,
Yeah, it was like
and vice
mine. It
versa.
was like number 10 for me, and it was like number 4 for you, or like number 1 for
Yeah,
me was
yeah,
like number 6 for you, type thing. So yeah, no.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
This one, I think this might be your number 1 actually. So I'm gonna name the film, and if it's your number 1, we can wait until we get to yours, and we'll
Okay.
both have a discussion
Okay.
about it. This is a really recent watch for me, and very big in the zeitgeist right now for a
Oh
multitude of
no.
reasons.
Oh no. I think you
But
got it.
oh, is it your number one?
I think so. I think it is.
We'll wait then. I'm not going to say it.
Okay.
We'll wait. I know what it is. Is it? Yeah, it's a very contentious movie, should we say?
it's I you know and I know what it is. I think. I
Okay,
think we'll
right.
do
We're
it
gonna save it. My
later.
number
Okay.
three is Jackson's number one. We'll talk about this soon. Okay.
Okay.
Do you want to do your number two?
Sure. I think we have the same number two, maybe.
No, your number
Or you might have
two
this. You
is
might have
my
this at
number
number one
one.
then. Oh,
Okay.
okay. So how do we
Uh,
do? How do we do this then?
I don't know how we do it. I can talk
What's your
about my
number two
number
then?
two. Okay, my
Yeah,
number
let's
two
do
is
that, and then
Red
we'll do each
One.
of our number ones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my number two is Red One, that Amazon MGM
Okay.
fucking train wreck of a film. That's
Yeah.
the one that
Okay.
you haven't seen on my list.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah, I haven't seen this, so you can
I'll
do
be
it.
super quick because, like, even though it's super high, kind of like Unfrosted, there's almost nothing to really talk about outside of it just being atrocious. It was made for like $250 million. It's a Dwayne Johnson fucking vehicle just for him to start another franchise. Amazon to have like a hit franchise, and it's about it's like a Christmas themed action romp where Chris Evans is in it, and all Chris Evans is doing is playing Ryan Reynolds. So like, if you thought fucking Deadpool was insufferable, it's just like Chris Evans putting that suit on and doing the whole smirky, "Hey guys,
No.
isn't it funny that
Oh
I'm
yeah, yeah, yeah.
self-referential" type shit. Insufferable film. It's directed by Jake Kasdan, the son of Lawrence Kasdan, the guy behind fucking, was it Empire Strikes Back or something? Either Empire or Return of a Jedi. Like, one of the guys who
No,
works on
he
fucking stuff.
wrote those.
He wrote
I
those. Sorry,
think.
that's it. Yeah,
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
wrote those. His son, who his recent track record has been fucking horrendous, and it upsets me so much because he made maybe one of the funniest films ever made. He directed Walk Hard, which is in fucking incredible. One of the greatest comedies I've ever seen in my entire life. And then after, it's like Sex Tape, Jumanji, fucking Bad Teacher, and just like
I
all
didn't
of these
hate
like
Jumanji.
slop
I didn't like it,
films.
but it's not like the worst thing I've ever seen, kind of thing.
Oh, which one? Sorry.
Jumanji,
Oh
the
yeah, no,
remake.
like the Jumanji sequels, they're fine, but they're just like, they just feel
They're very
like the most
safe.
template
Yeah.
blockbusters of all time. And Red
Yeah.
One absolutely feeds into that. J.K. Simmons is in it, and he's not fun, which is insane because J.K. Simmons is always fun. It's ugly as all hell. Like, me and Brady watched it on call together, and there are moments where it's so dark, like, like Godzilla King of the Monsters, where like all of the action's shrouded in like fogs, like snow and darkness, so it like hides the bad visual effects. That's kind of the problem with this one, where like the entire film is just shrouded in darkness. You can't make out the awful CG reindeer or the CG monsters in the film. And then when it's daytime and you see some of these like scary creatures or whatever the fuck, like the things that Chris Evans and Dwayne Johnson are fighting, I'm just like, this is the most like soulless like creature design I've ever fucking seen. Really bad CG, and I don't want to shit on like CG artists or anything because obviously they're trying their best with the time constraints and stuff they're given. But like, it's so soulless. It's so designed purposely just to start a franchise. There's no integrity to like anything that's happening whatsoever. There's no creativity to anything. It is just lazy, bland, boring filmmaking. I will say, we were talking before about the guy who made what's the Oscar film with Jeffrey Wright that we were talking about before?
Oh, American
American
Fiction.
American Fiction, yeah. I really like that guy's Oscar speech where he says something along the lines of because I think he won like best original screenplay or something, and he's
He did.
talking that Hollywood should really like learn from the fact that, yeah, you can make, instead of making a $200 million film, you could make like 20 $10 million films from that or something along those lines. And while I was watching Red One, that statement just kept like looping in my head because I was like, this cost $250 million. No one liked it. It has to have like, it must have grossed like over like 500 600 million to even fucking break even, when you could make original films like, I don't know, I Saw the TV Glow. You just mentioned The Brutalist was made for $10 million. You could make the Brutalist style films 10 times over. I Saw the TV Glow, I don't even imagine that had a budget of 10 million. There are films on our lists that we spoke about for the best films of the year that cost in like the grand scheme of things, next to nothing compared to the likes of Deadpool and Wolverine, Red One,
Yep.
and all this like expensive blockbuster schlock, Argyle, stuff like that. That I was just like, yeah, this sucks. Why does this exist? Who is this pleasing? Maybe someone who pops it on like Amazon Prime Christmas Day because they're like, hey, it's a Christmas action film. But are they gonna remember it a week from
Yeah.
then? No, they're not. They're not gonna tune in for Red One 2, which also would be a terrible fucking title. I just realized. But like,
By the
it's
way, I realized that I was just checking the box office for it. It made so like you said, $250 million. It made 185. So
oh,
like you said, it would have
horrid.
like what's the point? And also like as soon as I saw that, I not only as soon as I saw the trailer for it, not only did I know it was going to be terrible, I knew it was going to bomb because like
Yeah,
all of those like fake looking like $250 million movies like Argyle or Red One or whatever, they all bomb. Like
they all
people
bomb
have
because no one
gotten
wants them.
accustomed. People are like, okay, we know what this is. We can sniff it out. Like,
Yeah, it's like I can't believe I'm about to do this, but I'll at least give credit to Deadpool and Wolverine because yes, even though it's got an insane $200 million budget and it doesn't look like it in the film, it looks fucking cheap as like awful, ugly, all of that stuff. At least they know that's a safe bet to dump money into. People are gonna go and see the Deadpool movie because people like Deadpool, people like Marvel, and yeah, if you're making like an original thing like the Chloe Zhao like Eternals or something and dumping 200 million into that, that's risky, and that bombed because reviews were bad and no one really cared. But if you make a Deadpool film and dump 200 million into it, people are going to fucking see it because they like Deadpool. That's a safe bet. If you want to make a quick buck, do it on things that people are generally going to like, regardless of whether like we like it or like critics and all of that stuff like it. But like something like Red One, it's such a risk, but I don't know why the risk is being taken. Same for Argyle. It's like, yeah, you can dump all that money into a film, but who wants to see it? Like, what looks appealing about this other than it being like a Tropic Thunder film? Like that someone might watch, like, oh, dude, it's funny because I like Dwayne Johnson and he punches reindeer. Or like, okay, it's a
yeah.
fucking
When you
terrible
say
film. But
Tropic
yes,
Thunder, you mean the fake movies in
yes, like the fake
okay,
movie
okay. Sorry
trailers
that.
and stuff. Like
Yeah.
it feels like one of those. Like it's like The Whale feels like a Tropic Thunder
I was
movie
like,
too for a very
no,
different reason.
nothing bad said about Tropic Thunder here.
No, Tropic Thunder's great. I'm not dissing Tropic Thunder. I'm talking about the faux
The fake
trailers and
movies. Just wanted
stuff.
to make sure. Just want to make sure.
Yeah, it feels like Red One feels like one of those like what's the Ben Stiller action one like Scorcher or something where they've made like 7 of them and everything. It's like hell will freeze over and shit like that.
Yeah,
That's what
that
Red
reminds
One
me too
feels
of
like.
like those like the Red Box movies, like especially with that title like Scorcher. It's like
Well, Scorcher's
that's
such a funny name.
reminds me like that could be like one of those like John Travolta like trading paint or something like
Oh
that. You
god,
know.
yeah. Oh yeah. But yeah, no, that's my number two. Awful film. Do we have any comments before we get into our number ones?
We
Because
don't at the moment.
okay. I hope everyone's
Okay.
enjoying the stream. I hope we haven't lost everyone after we shit on
Yeah,
Deadpool and
I
Wolverine.
think that's the thing is I think I don't know. I've gotten like comments in the past about like I last year I didn't do like a worst of the year video, and it's just less interesting for me. I think for the most part. I mean, I'm so much more interested in the films I like than the films I don't like,
Yes.
and so there's just kind of it feels a bit obligatory to make it. This is I have really enjoyed this because it's nice to rant. It's nice to vent
Yes.
about this stuff, but I think some of our takes are a little unpopular. So
That's
I
fair.
understand.
That's fair.
I completely
Um,
understand that. So
we're definitely gonna have one unpopular. I think your number one is something that a lot of people will agree. My number one, I don't know how many people agree.
a
I
lot of people think that one's terrible too. A
Oh,
lot of
okay,
people
good, good.
think,
Okay,
yeah.
so at least there'll be
But,
common ground, hopefully, for
all right.
the viewers
Do
as
you want me
well.
to go
So
first, or and
you go
then
first. Yeah, you go
okay,
first because I've had a few picks in a row. So
okay,
what's your number one and my number three?
all right. Emilia Perez, a
Yes,
movie that has quite a chance, I think, of winning Best Picture. It's
I
going to be
agree.
nominated for Best Picture.
Oh,
It
100%.
won us. It won a stupid amount of stuff at the Golden Globes.
It
Like
did.
when people kind of like look at the tea, like try to read the tea leaves of like, okay, what are other awards? What's winning at other award ceremonies? Emilia Perez is doing like frighteningly good. So if you don't know what this is a I shit you not. This is a like Mexican narco like crime drama slash musical slash like sort of Umbrellas of Cherbourg like sort of speak heavy musical about a trans woman. So that sounds like a lot because it is, and none of it works. It's so the crime drama stuff is um, like I don't know. I mean, like to be perfectly honest, I haven't seen too many like narco type specific type movies that
Have you
have really
seen
blown me away.
Sicario?
I've seen Sicario. I don't love it. It's fine.
That's
I'm
fair.
not a big fan. But I've heard Steven Soderbergh's Traffic is really good. I liked what I've seen of the TV show Narcos and stuff. Um, so I didn't have the best sort of like background for it, but it's so uninteresting compared to all of the other. I mean, I was mostly comparing it to other like gangster movies and stuff, and there's none of the sort of like I don't know the appeal I like when gangster movies sort of show off the opulence of the gangster lifestyle, sort of like Goodfellas does to sort of sort of make you understand how
Yeah,
people who are in impoverished systems sort of get entrapped in it. There's not really any of that. There's not really any of the inverse either of like sort of like really emphasizing how like sad and sort of disgusting the gangster lifestyle is, sort of like Carlito's Way or something like that.
yeah,
It's just like the most sort of like bare bones, like plot heavy sort of elements of a gangster film. Very, very like cartoonish, I think, in how it's portrayed. That's like probably the
yeah.
best way to describe it.
No, I'd
Um,
agree.
and then what's really, really offensive though is the musical stuff. God, this is maybe the worst musical I've ever seen.
Yeah,
And I'm somebody, okay, I'm a bit of a purist about musicals. My favorites tend to be ones from like
Joker.
particular. Oh, Joker, of course. Absolutely. No. I like cult musicals. I like Rocky Horror and Phantom of the Paradise. I really love, but I really love like old Hollywood musicals. I love like 1950s, like sort of MGM Technicolor musicals,
Yeah,
Gene Kelly, that kind of stuff. I love like the French, like Jacques Demy musicals as well, that really kind of emphasize like, you know, dance, the movement of characters, like really bright colors and everything. This is desaturated to shit. And the musical numbers are staged like so poorly. And again, like so this the style of the singing is it is on paper it's similar to like a Jacques Demy musical in that like characters are kind of singing like mundane dialogue for the most part. But the difference is that in the Jacques Demy musicals, they actually get people who can sing to do that, and in Emilia Perez, they do not, and it's horrible.
no.
It's so I think there's a lot of like a bad politics you can get into about the movie in terms of like,
Oh,
yes, it
yes.
is a very like cartoonish, like so sort of what's the word, like tone deaf
Yes.
view of like the trans experience and everything. But I think and that is a perfectly valid thing to get into. That was a big reason why I didn't like the movie. But much bigger than that is it just looks and sounds like shit. Like
Oh,
it's
it's
like just
horrible.
aesthetically and like as a visual experience and as an auditory experience, worst of the year, absolute
Um,
worst of the year, and it
no,
might win
I
Best Picture.
disagree. I do think it will win Best Picture. Like you said, it has like a genuine chance of doing that, and it's so alarming. Like I'm basically gonna like I just parrot exactly what you said about the film. I agree with basically everything you've said. Yeah, no, it's the rare musical that doesn't have a single like memorable musical number, like outside of like the whole like the part where she goes to like the doctors and it's like the sex change operation thing. Like that is kind of funny out of context, but when you're actually watching it, like this is a musical number. Like oh my
Yeah.
god, it's atrocious. Bad performances all around. I'm gonna say I'm not one to really speak on like transphobia necessarily. Like it's something that like I don't think I'm like the appropriate person to really get into the trans politics of Amelia Perez, especially given that the trans actress, the trans actor who's in the film, like the
Right.
character who's playing a
Yeah.
trans person is trans in real life. So I
Yes.
mean that is something that it's like it's a weird thing to like tiptoe around. I don't want to be like, oh, I'm correct about this, but my
Yeah. It's
takeaway from the film was it treats the character, particularly when because like for those of you who don't know, it's about like a mobster gangster character who wants to transition and like avoid that lifestyle. So like the whole film is the lady Zoe Saldana is basically like coerced into. She's a lawyer and she's coerced into basically finding a sex change of like a doctor who will commission this operation, and then a couple of years later, after the gangster has transitioned into their true self, Amelia Perez, she basically brings Zoe Saldana back into the foray so they can. I don't know if you'd agree with this, but like basically Mrs. Doubtfire her old family, where it's like she goes back and she's like, "Hey, I'm the aunt or something." And
No, there's a scene where it's literally Mrs. Doubtfire, and that like she like is seeing the kids again, and they don't recognize her and everything, and it's like trying to
yeah,
do that, but like for Miss Doubtfire's, there's problems with the movie, but it's like it's a throwaway comedy, like it's whatever, and it's not really. I don't even feel like when I watched it, I rewatched it kind of recently. I didn't even feel like it was really a movie about like trans people. I just thought it was like a like Robin Williams like is cross dressing. That like
yeah, no,
I don't think
there's
it was
not
like
much
genuinely
crazy
trying to
shit.
do anything. It's not mean
No.
spirited or whatever.
No,
Um,
but Amelia Perez has just such a it's so bizarre. Like everything about it is so bizarre. I really like again, I'm not one to really speak on this issue, but I really got like kind of icky vibes from how like when the character I forget what the character's name is, like what the dead name is of the character before they she transitions into Amelia Perez.
I
But
don't
when
remember
they're
either. Pablo
like
Escobar might as well be Pablo
Pablo
Escobar.
Escobar, let's just say that. But like the first scene with that character is it's set in a van with Zoe Saldana on the right side and the gangster character Pablo Escobar on the left side, and they frame the character like shrouded in darkness with like really awful like prosthetic like a really long prosthetic nose that feels really weird and like awful, and just like a really fake like awful looking beard, and it's like they're shrouded in darkness. I saw someone online, and like again, this is not me like making fun. I'm just saying it feels like they're treating them like they're like a monster almost, or like a goblin or
Yeah,
something horrible. And like
that's the
I
thing
don't mean
is,
that in a way to be like transphobic, because obviously that's not what I'm trying to say. But like the film treats like that as like, oh, there's some weird, disgusting creature shrouded in darkness, like Gollum or something from Lord of the
yeah,
Rings. And then when they like reveal them true selves later in the film and everything, it's very more like outgoing and stuff. And I guess you could read into that like that's the lifestyle, they didn't care. But the film never bothers to really give a shit about the trans experience as a whole. And without getting into spoilers, the entire third act completely disregards any like good sentimentality about the film and just treats that character and everyone around them like such dog shit, and just
yeah,
it's so disgusting. But like it almost like again I don't know if it's my place to even talk about this, but it baffles me that a trans person would even want to be a part of a project like this, in the same way that we
it
watched
is
I
really
Am Sam
baffling.
recently. Me and you
Yes,
watched I Am Sam, and I Am Sam follows like a character with like learning disabilities and everything, but they got real people who also have very similar conditions to him in real life and live that life. And it kind of feels like you're getting these real people, but you've got fucking Sean Penn pretending to like have like live this lifestyle and play a character like this. I don't understand why you just wouldn't get an actor to do this instead of having someone who almost feels like they're mocking those with that. And
yeah,
that's kind of a vibe I got from Amelia Perez. Like I don't know, maybe the actress who plays Amelia Perez in the film, maybe they found it like really kind of like gratifying or anything, but I just it comes across really mean and hollow, and it feels like the director just had no interest. And I think even in interviews he stated he didn't do much in the way of research. It just feels like him using a popular like a popular talking point at the moment, transness, as just a point to like, here's a concept for a film, without really putting the care or the attention to detail that really should be handled in that way. And then on the opposite side of the spectrum, you get stuff like I Saw the TV Glow that captures the
I
trans
was
experience
I
better
was
than
just
like
gonna say.
anything in like Amelia Perez ever fucking could. Anyway, I'll let you talk about it. I've been ranting a
No,
lot.
that, I mean
Sorry.
that was just the last point I was going to make, which is the like so my favorite film and least favorite film of the year are both about the trans experience, something I have zero personal experience with. But here's the difference: is that like I saw the TV Glow, I may have zero personal experience with it. I know trans people. I have a lot of I have trans people in my life, but I can't personally sort of understand that whole process.
Yeah.
But I saw the TV Glow kind of does that because it sort of simplifies it to its most abstract element. Well, not simplifies it, but sort of breaks it down to its most abstract elements of sort of loneliness and feeling like you don't belong and all that. And of course,
Yeah.
you can relate to that the way it's spread out through like media. In I Saw the TV Glow and just sort of like general. Just being socially isolated and things like that. So there's a lot, there's things you can grasp onto. There's nothing you can grasp onto in Emilia Perez because it's so inauthentic. It's so
Yeah.
like specific to the movie that it's doing. And just like, and again, I don't know any trans people that have like actually like, related to the film, I guess. I don't
Yeah.
know. But
It
before we
feels
get
like
to your
a lot.
number, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, it feels like a lot of people who do like the film don't care about the trans experience or have very like I don't want to say that, that's wrong. They have little understanding of the trans experience to the point where it feels like in like a Crash situation where it's like Crash is like it's talking about racism in the most obvious kind of way that like anybody who actually understands like the repercussions or anyone who's actually felt or like dealt with like racism or something like that in the past would just be like, this is so like inauthentic,
Yeah.
But it's like I feel like
Yes.
anybody who's actually dealt with issues like the characters do in Emilia Perez can just see right through it, and it's just like, again, like I said, the director using the trans experience as like kind of, oh yeah, I'll make a schlocky film about it. It's like almost like an exploitation film in that regard.
It
Like
kind,
it's
it kind of is
exploiting the
given the
trans
genre
experience.
elements and everything. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's
before we get to your number one, I'm just gonna go. It's getting dark here, so I'm just gonna turn on a little bit more light, and then I
oh,
will
of course,
go
of
next.
course. Yeah, no worries.
It's literally gonna be like 2 seconds. I'm like,
Oh, no worries, man. I hope
hopefully.
everyone who's watching is enjoying
that's
the stream.
hopefully that's working better.
Oh yeah, I've got one more thing to say as well. We didn't even touch on it. Selena Gomez is fucking atrocious in the film. Oh my god.
I'm not gonna slander her too much just because I love her so much in Spring Breakers, but
She's great in Spring Breakers, but what the fuck happened, man? What
yeah.
the fuck? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Number one. So I'm guessing this is your number two, man. Oh god. So by far the worst film I've seen in a cinema. This was another one I saw during like a triple bill. I think I saw The Phantom Menace, Sunshine. No, The Phantom Menace, this, and then Danny Boyle's Sunshine. And this was the middle feature.
That's a
And
shit sandwich of a double feature. You got some real bread in there, but then
yeah, it's
not much in the middle.
fuck. Yeah. So. Boy Kills World, the Bill Skarsgård-led action film of the year. It's funny, Bill Skarsgård has had the most perplexing of years of any actor I've seen, like in general. Like again, I don't know what the fuck happened this year. I defend The Crow, because I think The Crow is actually pretty good. And even though I didn't like it, I think he's good in Nosferatu, even though that's a 2025 film for me. But Boy Kills World, oh my god. So I think it's from either a first-time filmmaker or someone who's only made like one or two films before in the past.
It's like Morty's Mort or something. I think it's a German filmmaker.
It might be South African, I feel like it was shot in Africa. Yeah, I think it's. I might be wrong. Yeah, you could correct me on that.
It's the filmmakers from Frankfurt, so it's a German filmmaker, but it could be like shot
maybe
in
it was
South
shot.
Africa or
Maybe it was shot in South Africa. That's what I'm thinking of, or something. But anyway, yeah, no, it follows a character. I think the character's literally called Boy, like Bill Skarsgård, who's witnessed some atrocities at a young age, and now he's mute. But it wants to be like an epic kind of John Wick style revenge film, while blending in aspects of like Deadpool humor and just like gratuitous violence for the sake of it. But the real kicker of the film is that the entire film, even though Bill Skarsgård's character Boy is like completely mute and doesn't speak, you hear his inner thoughts throughout the entire film, voiced by H. John Benjamin, who people will know from Archer or Bob's Burgers. He plays Bob in Bob's Burgers. Hey, John Benjamin, really funny fucking guy. I love Bob's Burgers. I think it's delightful. He's got a great kind of like monotone delivery and everything. But he is the wrong fucking call for a film like this where he's just spewing out like AI generated Ryan Reynolds zingers. And the entire film is just like, it's like, isn't it so funny that we've got Bob from Bob's Burgers talking as Bill Skarsgård, and he's like, wait a minute, that's weird. Oh my god, I can't believe that's happened. I really hate that guy. I'm gonna fucking fucking kill that guy. And it's like just this non-stop like barrage of dialogue that, like, yes, there are films with like narration, and like some people don't like narration to be used in a film. They think it's like a lazy cop out or something. But like this is like you are hearing the inner thoughts of a character for like the entire, I think it's like an hour 50 minutes or something, and he's never shutting the fuck up. It's
No, yeah.
every single minute there are like 10 zingers and 10 jokes, none of them fucking land. And he'll be walking, and Bill Skarsgård will meet these characters, and you'll just hear every single thought that's in this character's head, and it drove me fucking insane. I sat there purely because I wanted to say I made it through the film, because I wanted to tap out 10 minutes into the film, even though I paid for a fucking ticket to see it. But like throughout the film, it's so exhausting, and none of it's funny. And the worst part is, from what I can tell, the film had some weird editing issues because a trailer was released like 2 or 3 years ago, because I think the film was in production hell for a while. And when the original trailer released, Bill Skarsgård was actually doing his inner like voice himself. It wasn't H. John Benjamin. And from what I've heard from people who saw that version of the film, he kind of like, he had such an animated delivery that it kind of made it fun. And I mean, that's Bill Skarsgård's whole shtick right now. I think about it: Pennywise, John Wick Chapter
Yeah.
4, Nosferatu. He's doing these really eccentric, like caricature voices, just like really goofy voices. But like, even if the films themselves aren't great, or if like the things around him aren't great, his commitment to the bit is what kind of saves them. And like, if for me,
You
with
know what's so
Nosferatu,
interesting
what's
about
that,
him
sorry?
is just that like he is a very like conventionally attractive like Hollywood, type figure, and
Yeah,
occasionally has played those roles like in Barbarian. That's kind of what he does. But he's so interested in basically playing these like, again, like kind of like very exaggerated, almost like clown type characters
yeah,
in a lot of ways, where it's
no,
all like German expressionist. And he's a really interesting actor. And I think this premise could have worked in a different movie. I
probably.
think this exact like idea, you could probably like of sort of a mute, like hyper violent sort of martial arts action star. That's a cool idea. The narration definitely shouldn't have been whoever it was that did it, and definitely shouldn't have been as obnoxious as it was.
Yeah.
Maybe a narration could work, but really, I honestly think it should just be, you should just do like a mute character. I think that's a much better like gimmick for a movie. But
Yeah,
yeah, just the way
because
it's done, it's just I think it's the most obnoxious movie
yeah,
of
no,
the
I
year.
agree.
Yeah.
Like, it's so fucking obnoxious, and it's exhausting. Like, it's so
Yeah.
exhausting because like it's the same thing over and over again, and that's not even talking about the actual violence in the film, which it's just kind of I know me and you have spoken about this before, like in our calls privately and stuff. But like, it's the type of action that, like, it's leery and violent just for the sake of it. Like, dude, isn't it cool that like this guy's getting his limbs chopped off? Where it's like using violence as like a spectacle, and sometimes that can be fine given a
Yeah.
director. Like, you think of like a John Wick or something, or just like films like that. Like, you can have extremely violent movies. A lot of like the Korean like thrillers and revenge thrillers and stuff,
A
like
certain
they can get
Takashi Miike also,
yeah,
like
like
because like John Wick is like, it's very violent, and violence is part of that entertainment quality, but it's also like very like psychologically connected with the character. Like
yeah,
the violence is like, you see like the impact on John and everything. Takashi Miike, it's more just kind of for shits and giggles. But it's not. I don't know. You could describe Ichi the Killer as obnoxious, but I don't find it that way. I find it kind of charming and how kind of creative he gets with it. But especially, I don't know. There's just something about this that was just so like lazy, I think.
yeah, it's just like, oh yeah, he's like hurting people with like a cheese grater, and their like faces are like bleeding, and their skin's coming off, and it's like, hey, look how mean this is. It's kind of like when people complain about, and justifiably so, about like Terrifier or something, just for being like a gore fest just for the sake of it to be shocking. It's like this Boy Kills World feels that way with the violence, where it's just like, hey, it's so bloody and gnarly, but like it just loses its impact, and you become numb to it after a while, and you're like, this is just hokey and tasteless, and it's not
Yeah.
fun, and there's no comedy to it. It's just because like the film itself, like the emotional core of the film, if you even want to say that, is like this character is like so heartbroken over the fact that like his family were like fucking killed, and it's like the film wants you to really feel like, oh shit, no, he needs to get vengeance in the same way as like the John Wick, the dog situation and stuff. But at least you're given moments in John Wick. I'm using that just as an example where it's like you can understand and relate to the character, and when violence is particularly in that first John Wick film, when violence occurs, it's almost used in a really bleak and like not a very fun way. Like I don't think the violence in John Wick, like one in particular, is very fun. There's like that one scene where he's in like the bathhouse and he stabs a guy in like the neck or something, and he's looking into his eyes as like the life drains from him. And you're like, this is sinister, horrible shit. And it's like you feel like he's actually a threat. John's a threat. But in this, it's just like, oh yeah, dude, Bill Skarsgård's just like chopping people's arms off, and isn't it so funny because wow, blood's spurting everywhere, and it's just like it's not funny, but and even though the film wants you to laugh at it, it also wants you to take it seriously, and there's that like tonal like disconnect from it where you're just like, what are you wanting me to feel right now? Do you want me to feel heartbroken because the characters went through tons of shit, or do you want me to revel in like the extreme gore and all of the shit that's going on right now? It's just an insanely obnoxious film, and I do want to say, Bill Skarsgård is not the problem with this film. I think he is so committed to it that it actually makes me sad, because you can tell he wanted to like he really really wanted to like go all out for this. Like you can tell he learned so much, he did so much like training beforehand and everything. And I don't think like his choreography or anything in the film is like bad or anything. Like he's so committed to it that, like you said, this premise could be done in a different film so much better in the hands of somebody who's capable. And I think it's just such a waste of like such a committed performance, really, because you can tell it's something that he clearly, I don't want to say had fun doing, but like something that meant a lot to him. He doesn't half-ass films, I find, with Bill Skarsgård. Like he really, when he's in something, he fucking commits to it, and it's a shame that nobody else around the film, like nobody else, the director, anybody else involved, really gave enough of a shit to really deliver on the gimmick or the hook of the film. Yeah, no, it's just one of the most obnoxious, like you said, films of the year. Insufferable. Hated it, hated it, hated it. I fucking, oh god, yeah, like Unfrosted,
Yeah.
I can't wait to never think about it again. Oh,
Yeah.
but yeah, do you have
Well, dude,
anything
we
else to
made
say
it.
about it?
No, I think we kind of got through my thoughts on it as well. But wow, we made it through some shit. That
No,
was.
we did.
Thank you, everyone, so much for
Thank
watching
you.
this and commenting. I probably should
Yes.
have done a little bit more of like I forgot to kind of say at the start. I'd love to hear what other people's like least favorite movies of the year are.
Yes.
I know Josh mentioned some other stuff, like Jason mentioned some other stuff. Jason, I've also seen your like video about it and everything. But if anybody who still wants watching wants to comment a little bit, we can
Oh,
like go
absolutely,
through some
yeah.
of those.
Because we've been
But
talking for a while about our
yeah,
beloved
yeah.
films. Oh,
But yeah, so that's so before we head out, one other thing. So Leon, we also, the other stream that we wanted to do at some point, maybe like next weekend we can talk about it,
hopefully
is
next
our
weekend if I can. Yeah.
okay, yeah, is our favorite first time watches of 2024. So not basically excluding films that came out last year, just what are the best movies we've seen from that we watched for the first time in 2024.
Yeah.
We had such a great time doing that last
Oh,
year.
it's so fun.
Again, I just way prefer talking about stuff I love than stuff
Oh,
I hate,
yeah.
but
No, absolutely.
you got to do it sometimes, you know.
And I feel like it's perfect in this month too, because I mean it's January, and for those of you who aren't aware, Jackson is currently torturing himself for the entire month of January as a samurai tradition. If you want to quickly explain to the audience what you're doing to yourself, because
Yes.
it's oof.
So it's a tradition in the Discord I'm in that during the month of January, because January is, it's the month of the year where streaming companies and studios like drop the trash, like the stuff they're like, this is terrible, we don't know what to do with this, so we'll drop it. Sometimes you get a lot of bangers out of that, which like when people like studios have have weird taste, and like I don't know why they dropped the Beekeeper in January, but thank God they did. But anyway, but yes, so Samurai January is sort of you have to harness the will and the dedication of the samurai to watch as many 1-star terrible movies as you can, and I have already watched like 8 or 9 this month. So
let people know what you've been subjecting yourself.
I watched I Am Sam. I started the month with Norbit with Eddie Murphy. I watched The Haunting of Sharon Tate. Definitely a very tasteful film about the Manson murders.
Deadpool?
Deadpool and Wolverine. Mrs. Brown's Boys, the movie.
I'm expecting a review for that on the channel.
I don't think that many people know who it is. Actually, the British people do. Mike, did you see that? He commented on my review, and he was like, Jackson, like I'll watch some bad movies, like I'll watch some asylum movies, but I don't go this low. I was like, that means a lot coming from you, Mike. So
yeah,
thank you.
I feel like you should do a video chronicling your Samurai January stuff.
That would be
I
good.
think that
I think
would
I
be
might.
so entertaining.
I think I'm gonna do that, to be honest. I think that sounds really fun. Because so another announcement. So another reason I haven't done a ton of like edited videos in a while is because I stopped paying for my editing service. I know there's some free ones out there, but in high school, I learned how to use like Adobe Premiere and like some, real ones. And so that's just what I'm used to. And I like to do it that way. But I've been like interning for a while and like kind of money's been like tight and everything. But I recently got a permanent position. So I am in the position to subscribe to an editing service again. So I think I will be coming back to making like real videos very soon. And that actually would be a super fun one, is to sort of chronicle Samurai January. What was another one I've watched? Mac and Devin Go to High School is another one I watched. Guys, do you like weed? Weed is good. Weed is fun.
The talking joint.
We do have a comment, by the way, before we go.
Yeah.
So we're gonna shoot for doing the stream on best films, for best first time watches next weekend. We have a comment from Brady who drops a fire take that I agree with. Madam Web is better than Megalopolis. I agree. What do you think, Lana? Because you actually don't dislike either of them.
Wait. I agree too. I agree too. We're all on equal playing ground. Yeah, no, I agree. At first I was like, hey, don't be mean to Megalopolis, but the more I think about it, no, I like Madam Web more. There's more I like about it. I agree. Collectively, we've all agreed about something. That makes me happy. That's a good way to end the stream. Something positive. In unison, we're all dogging on a film together.
Yes. All right, perfect. Well, thank you guys so much for watching and and just participating in the discussion. We will see you guys in the next one. Take it easy.
See you guys in the next one. Thanks so much for stopping by, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Also, go and see Batman.